feature presentation.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 141 of the Untitled Movie Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Matt Rohrbeck, alongside, he's allergic to tomatoes, but he is tomato meter approved, Eric Marchin.
Matt, we survived the holiday season.
We survived 2022, baby. Happy New Year, everyone.
Yep, we're in that
Hopefully.
home
I mean, we're recording
now.
this before. Knock on wood. We're recording this before the New Year. If we're dead by the time this comes out, I mean, there.
Yep, exactly. And with the new year comes a new year of films. And, you know, in the last little while, we have made it a mandate that we come up with a list of films that we're looking forward to from January to December of 2023. And obviously, there's going to be some films that we do not put on this list, whether it be because we're not sure if they're coming out or, you know, we're just unaware of them, because sometimes there are surprises or movies that are very much under the radar. So you can't kind of predict the after suns necessarily that'll be released. You kind of have to, you know, listen and learn and find out about those as the year goes on and becomes kind of, you know, the festival circuit and so on and so forth. So, you know, we are going to, you know, pick our films, but we're doing it a little bit differently, Matt. And do you want to explain that?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of my favorite episodes I think we do. I love looking at the upcoming year to see what's coming out, what we're pumped for, what we're excited for, and then also looking back at last year to see, did we like everything that we were anticipated for? Maybe not ranking them per se, but kind of going through the list and going, did we see everything on the list? What didn't come out? What did come out? Did they all live up to our expectations? I think that's always a blast. So we'll do that on today's episode. But yeah, we're going to do it a little differently. Previous years, Eric and I got together before we recorded, put together a polished list of what the movies were, and then would go on to this episode and give you that list of films. It was 22 for 2022. It's going to be 23. You get a bonus pick this year, Eric, for 2023. We're going to just kind of
23 and me.
We're just going to kind of make the list up on this episode. So you'll hear all the debates of what should be on the list, what shouldn't be on the list. We'll probably go through the entire year of movies, both stuff that's going to be on this list and stuff that's not. And we'll kind of probably throw a whole bunch of stuff on and then have to kind of weed it down to those 23 films. And I thought it could be kind of fun for you guys to be part of that conversation and listen to that conversation instead of us just going, here's what we're excited for and why. We can kind of figure that out all together. So that's what today's episode is going to be. We're not really going to talk news, or we'll talk trailers probably on this show, because that'll be a big part of probably some of the movies coming up next year. We've had a ton of trailers over the last kind of month or so, leading into Avatar and things like that. So we'll talk about all those on this episode. It's going to be fun. But Eric, before we get into all of that, how was your holidays? You came over on Christmas Eve. You gave me these dope ass Mario slippers. They're like,
oh yeah,
I'm wearing them right now.
Nice. Nice.
So I appreciate that. Your gift is on the way, I promise.
Checks in the mail.
Yeah.
You know what? It was very nice to, it was the first time over at your parents' new place. And, you know, both Mike and Anne and Sarah as well, you know, are all very warm and welcoming and kind and, you know, had both Kyle and myself over, and it was also kind of fun seeing how warped and twisted you guys were when playing one of the more later or newer versions of Jackbox. So that was a lot of fun, and you know, hearing you know, stories from your Uncle Mark, I think, is always a delight to hear. You know,
he is a ridiculous man, but I love him. Yeah.
He's got to write a book. Like, he is filled with so many anecdotes that, like, it's just like you kind of hang on, like, man, you have lived a life. Like, there's so much going on.
That's one way to put it. Yeah, that's one way to put it. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you came over. Yeah, Christmas and the holidays, pretty chill. Nevis is visiting her parents in Budapest. So I have been on bachelor holidays. So that meant going over to my parents for 4 days, and God love them, but that was enough. I needed to come home after that. We're doing a family Disney trip in February, which meant we had to force my mother into doing a little bit more of a chill Christmas this year. Don't get everyone a zillion presents. Let's put that money towards this family vacation we have coming up. So it was a little bit more chill than usual, but had people over on Christmas Eve. We went to Mark and Dana's on Christmas Day. Got to, see my cousins, hang out, have a ate way too much. I've eaten like garbage this past week. But I think that's what you do over the holidays. And then
Yeah.
getting home, it's both been lonely and at times, but freeing and chill at other times where I'm like, oh, I can just sit here and do nothing, which is not like it's that different from my life before. But it's just kind of, it's both. At times you go, man, I'm kind of bored, I miss my wife. And then at times you're like, oh, I can do whatever the hell I want. Should I play some God of War Ragnarok? Should I play The Last of Us Part 2? I've watched the first Knives Out, and I watched Spider-Verse the other night, and like just kind of, you just get into a mood sometimes and you're like, I'm in the right mood for this movie at this moment. And it's not like you plan to watch it, but you're just kind of scrolling through. And I threw on Knives Out and I threw on Spider-Verse, rewatch those bad boys. Enjoyed Knives Out more now with the context of how much I enjoyed Glass Onion. Went back and watched Knives Out. Still don't like it as much as Glass Onion. Very different movies though. I mean, Benoit Blanc even feels like, I mean, he's still very much the same character, but like, I love how different tonally those movies are. And I love that Ryan Johnson might go, okay, where is the setting? What is the group of characters? And then the tone, and Benoit Blanc will kind of match all that. Obviously more colorful being in the Greek islands and stuff like that in Glass Onion, but Knives Out I appreciated a lot more on rewatch. And then Spider-Verse is just one of the best movies ever, I think. Like, I just really, one of the best animated movies, and easily maybe the best superhero movie. And I think it just gets better on rewatch. And I absolutely love that movie. So that's kind of what I've been doing over the break. God of War Ragnarok, man. This is a hot take, but I'm not into it. And I don't know why. And like
Not enough
everyone,
Richard Schiff.
Plenty of Richard Schiff. I just played through all of this Asgard portion, and it was just an hour of Richard Schiff as Odin, which sounds great and is great. I don't know what it is, but I'm slow playing it, which isn't a bad thing. But usually when I'm really into a video game, I binge it. Like, I sit and I can't stop playing it, and I just want it all. And I know Ragnarok, people really kind of awarded it for its narrative, like its story, and it hasn't got its hooks in me yet. And I don't know what it is about it, that it hasn't, where I've even found myself replaying The Last of Us Part 2 for the third time. Again on like grounded plus difficulty, which is like the hardest difficulty, just to see if I can do it. And so something about God of War Ragnarok I'm not into, but I'm curious to see. Again, speaking of The Last of Us coming out in January, which won't be on this list, everyone. It's gonna be movies. I won't pull one of those. Don't worry. But I'm excited to see what they do with the Amazon series as well. But I don't know how that's gonna go. But yeah, weirdly not into God of War Ragnarok as much as I wanted to be. But that's kind of been my holiday. Have you been like kind of watching anything? Or I know we've been watching something we can't talk about, which you'll hear about soon. But
Yeah, I mean, mostly it's been the thing we can't talk about. But other than that, I rewatched Babylon. Kyle wanted to see it, so
right,
we
you
went
did
to
go, yeah.
Landmark Cinemas, and I still like it about as much as the first time around, but I think I appreciated it even more just in terms of what it's doing with reconciling with a period where, anything could happen, and you take, the good and bad sides of what it is, and maybe it doesn't dive deep enough in terms of, exploring certain issues within, the foundation of Hollywood in the silent era into the talkies, specifically talking about, the problematic moments, but at least it addresses those things in a way that, say, something like Elvis doesn't at all, and kind of puts all of the blame and all of the problems onto a cartoonish villain played by Tom Hanks, and kind of, lets Elvis walk away, unscathed, where, Elvis had many issues, one being, basically he was a pedophile, and sorry to say it, but it's true. And then the other thing is, like him, again, culturally appropriating African American music and sort of taking it as his own. So, you know, Baz Luhrmann glosses over those things and kind of makes it a puff piece where, you can accuse Damien Chazelle of maybe not diving deep into one thing, and it's kind of a very, surface level examination of Hollywood,
Sure.
chewing you up and spitting you out. But at least he says that
It's
these
style
things
over substance, but yeah, he's
happened at
also
these times, and you can't not acknowledge them at the very least. And that alone, I think, is really, again, for a studio movie, doing some very creative but also gonzo things in the filmmaking. But there's also some symmetry there
Speaking
as
of
well.
gonzo,
God, no. Let's not. Christmas is over. We'll bring it up next year as a part 2. But yeah, it's just one of those situations. Although Gonzo and Babylon would be pretty funny,
the very
sniffing up
Muppet
cocaine.
Babylon.
Yeah, God. But yeah, it's a really well done film, and I think it's one of those
I
movies
agree,
like
man.
over time people will maybe come to appreciate it more. I think maybe part
It's
of it is,
always going to be a divisive movie, and I
and it's
think
a
we knew
downer
that when we
too.
saw
Like,
it. But
it's
yeah,
not a feel good movie. Like, it's not like La La
which doesn't
Land
help
where
it. Yeah,
it leaves you in a really kind of hopeful place and charming place, even though again it's very bittersweet, that movie. But this is kind of like it's much more bleak and
totally. Yeah,
opaque in its sort of vision of what Hollywood was, and in some ways still is. So as I crack my voice there, but again, like, I think it's a movie you need to see on the big screen. Like, it's one of those films that a lot
had
of
it look
people
at
will
Landmark.
probably, and it looks great, but I will say the Lightbox is probably the best way to see
God,
a movie
I love
like
the
that.
Lightbox.
Yeah.
I love the Lightbox so much. Yeah, or it's playing in 70 millimeter at probably not for long at Varsity.
Yeah.
It's probably finished today. I'm guessing. I haven't really looked if it's staying for another week, but because I wanted to go see it in 70 mil, but it is one of those movies. I loved it and I do want to see it again. But that 3 hour and 10-minute investment, I've already watched Avatar twice this year. I've watched Black Panther 3 times now. So like that's a lot of time where I watched Black Panther again over the holidays because my mom hadn't seen it yet. And my mom is a big MCU person. She just recently she does like a yearly rewatch of all the MCU movies, and she's trying to make her way through the shows again. But she hadn't seen Black Panther yet. She's just, didn't have anyone to go see it with or whatever. And I should try to start taking my mom to those premieres or something if I can go with her, because I know she really likes it. So I was like, oh, you haven't seen Wakanda Forever yet? I'm like, okay, let's watch it since you haven't. And she enjoyed the hell out of it. I still really like that movie. I think it's all the same issues that we've talked about before. And I think they even pop up even more on rewatches. Like, with certain things, you start to notice some of the cracks a bit more, but it's still an incredibly enjoyable and emotional kind of movie. And this time I sort of like passively watched it. But still a great end cap to a mixed phase 4 of the MCU. So that was the other thing. And then some Christmas movies, which we'll wait till next year to do the Great Muppet Debate. But
yeah, what is the Great Christmas Muppet Movie?
They should make another Christmas Muppet movie. Come on, you're not doing anything with them. All right, that's enough about the holidays. It's a new year, new us, but pretty much the same us. But before we get into this year, let's look back at 2022. Eric, do you remember what we put on our 20? I have it up here, but I can go through it and we can kind of see if everything panned out or if we made some bad choices, some good choices. What did we leave out? I think there's quite a few things on here that we left out that I just think we did not either know about at the time or didn't think that they would, they were unexpected great movies. So on our Untitled's 22, I gotta make a time code 1 second. Sorry.
Matt, always with those time codes.
Okay. Untitled's 22 most anticipated movies of 2022. We're going to talk about this and then look back. So we had The Batman, we had Blonde, we had
Ooh.
Bones and All, we had Crimes of the Future, we had Beau is Afraid, we had Don't Worry Darling, we had Jackass Forever, good for us. We had The Killer, we had Killers of the Flower Moon, we had Men, we had Nope, we had The Northman, we had Poor Things, we had Spider-Man into what's the new one called?
Across the
Across the
Universe?
Spider-Verse, yeah.
Across the
Spider-Man
Universe, Julie Taymor.
Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. We had the Super Mario Brothers movie. We had Thor Love and Thunder. We picked the wrong Marvel movie. Remember we had that debate last year.
Yep.
We had Triangle of Sadness. We had Turning Red. We had The Whale. We had White Noise. We had Women Talking. And we had The Zone of Interest. So few of those movies. Let's go over the ones that did not come out this year, which has happened the last couple years. So Beau is Afraid, The Killer, Killers of the Flower Moon, Poor Things, Across the Spider-Verse, Super Mario Brothers, and The Zone of Interest all did not come out in 2022. So that's a good chunk of our list that we will have to
Debate.
make note of and figure out what we want to carry over. So I'm
Yeah.
going to write those movies down as the first kind of batch of films that are in contention on this year's list, because if they were on last year's, you would assume they're in contention for this year, but they might not make it because that has happened in previous years as well. How do you feel about our list as a whole as I'm writing these out? I think,
It's not too bad. Blonde is the one film that I would
Yeah.
say is probably one of the most
our biggest swing and
disappointing.
misses. Yeah.
But in terms of, we had a good cross section. I think that's the one thing, not to toot our own horn, is that we do kind of find a nice balance between, the studio blockbuster movies, the kind of big, higher profile films, and then we also kind of dabble in kind of the smaller movies, but then we can also find room for something like Jackass
Well,
Forever.
that's our show in a nutshell, really, right? That's why I
Yeah.
like putting out this list, is kind of has that, okay, here's our identity, here are the movies we're excited for. Yeah, we're gonna have Super Mario Brothers on there, but we'll also have The Zone of Interest, or Women Talking, or White Noise, or Crimes of the Future, and things like that. So yeah, I agree with you there. I do like the mix, and we'll probably continue that this year, which will make, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 films that didn't come out this year.
Cool.
Yeah, I would say Blonde is probably our biggest kind of like, oh man, we were excited for that and that did not pan out. Weirdly, this always happens with me. I did not see Men. And I did not see, there's one other film on here I didn't see, I think, or is it just Men? Oh, Crimes of the Future. So
Yeah.
weirdly, like I just, sometimes things come out at the wrong time and I'm just like, oh, I missed that. And then I'm like, when am I going to get around to that? And I still haven't got around to them. Even though I do very much want to watch both. I've heard mixed things on both. Positive things on Crimes of the Future from you and from people who like Cronenberg and stuff like that. Mixed overall, I think, from people who watched it, and Men mixed overall as well, which I think you were mixed positive on Men.
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot there to appreciate. And I think like there are moments that are very captivating and disturbing and weird. But I also feel like it would have been even better as a 20-minute short than a feature film. Like, it does feel like, of Alex Garland's output, like it kind of does feel almost, in a way like, an extension or an epilogue to what he's done, across his entire career, just kind of more going in a folk horror kind of direction instead of, more sci-fi horror.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I'd say the other ones that kind of we whiffed on, like Don't Worry Darling was kind of a disappointment, a huge one.
Yeah.
Which I think is understandable that we were excited for that. And then I'd even put The Whale kind of in that category to an extent, where I think the performance is good with the movie. I've even feel less about than I did at TIFF.
We have a Triangle of Sadness, right? Where it's
Triangle of
like
Sadness, which
you
I
would,
really liked, but I know you were kind of medium on it. Yeah.
yeah, but nobody's really talking about it as much as they were, back when it played at Cannes and won the Palme d'Or. Like I keep forgetting that it won the Palme d'Or, you know, this past
Yeah.
year. So I can think it's fine. I just think that we've gotten so many movies that have dealt with sort of capitalism and, eating the rich in this year, that the one that's the most literal,
The
is the
Menu.
one. Well, the Menu as well, but this
Oh,
kind of does
sorry. What were
feel
you
very
looking at?
like, well, the
Oh, this
Menu.
is okay.
Yeah. The Triangle of Sadness, like
Sorry.
I
Yeah.
love the one sequence with, the vomit and things like that, but I think because it is broken up into 3 chapters, it almost does feel like an anthology movie, and like that kind of
Sure.
weakens it a little bit because you're comparing it to the rest of the film. But there's still a lot to like, and I really love Ruben Östlund as a filmmaker, and like I'm
Mhm.
always excited to see what he'll do and how he'll kind of make his movies, because his films feel very much like, you never know what you're going to get until you see it at the screening. Like even when
Yeah,
you
and we'll
hear
always
about
be
it.
excited for whatever's next, even after something that I mean, I liked it more than you did, but I
Yeah.
understand that. And for me, that's the Northman for me. I did not like the Northman at all. I can appreciate it from a technical standpoint, but that movie just did not click with me at all. So there would be another one that was kind of a disappointment for me on this list. But a lot of this did live up to our expectations. I think the Batman we both really loved. Bones and All. The more I think about it, the more I liked it. You liked Crimes of the Future quite a bit. I think we both really enjoyed the hell out of Jackass Forever. Nope, we both love. I guess Thor: Love and Thunder was another one that was probably more on the disappointment side. Like, I think if you have something on this list, you want it to be a 4 and above, right? Like if it's on your most anticipated list,
A
like I
four and
think if it
above, not a Thor and above.
Thor and below. I think we both were kind of. I was medium, like mixed positive on Thor: Love and Thunder, and I think you were mixed negative on it, or more leaning towards the negative side of things. So I think that would be. I
Too
know we
much
were,
Taika.
yeah,
Too much.
and we were debating between that, Doctor Strange, and Black Panther, and we ultimately went with Love and Thunder, when Black Panther probably was the right choice out of those three, even though Love and Thunder and it was probably this not the safest, because obviously with everything that they had to do, but because of it, the history of the first movie being so acclaimed and nominated for Best Picture and things like that, I mean safest from us to choose that as the most anticipated. Turning Red was a banger. I guess White Noise you enjoyed, I think, or
Yes.
appreciated.
Yeah.
I need to give it a rewatch, but definitely an interesting movie, I think. And then Woman Talking was fantastic as well. So I think we made some good choices, and a lot of them lived up to that very lofty, high expectations. So I'm pretty happy with that list. Was there any carryover? Now I'm going to look at our lists from 2021
I'm sure there
that is
was.
now bumped to 2023, because that's what
Oh.
I'm curious about.
Oh.
um, where is Untitled's 21 most anticipated films of 2021? Has any of these not come out yet? No, we had T10, Annette, Candyman, Card Counter, Last Night in Soho, Dune, No Time to Die, Eternals, French Dispatch, Benedetta, Green Knight, F9, Blonde, which got carried over, Northman, which got carried over, Spiral from the Book of Saw, the, the unbearable weight
On
of
brand.
massive, the unbearable weight of massive talent, which ended up coming out in 2022, but we bumped
Yes.
it off of our list. 3,000 Years of Longing, which got bumped to 2022, but we bumped it off of our list. Probably a good choice from what I've heard from people.
It's okay. I don't think it's a
Yeah,
bad movie at all. I think it's kind of like, again, it's the movie George Miller wanted to make. And if you're expecting another kind of spectacle in the way Mad Max was, you're going to be disappointed. Yeah.
Apollo 10 and a half got bumped to 2022, and Triangle of Sadness got bumped to 2022. So some of those did come out. And then we also had Licorice Pizza and False Positive, which was probably one of our bigger whiffs
Yeah.
on that year. All right, let's do it, man. So let's look through. let's look through
So we're going to pretend that the
2023.
jury is the people listening, and we are lawyers representing films that we believe should be on this list. The most anticipated films of 2023.
So we
Now,
have. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, do you have a film right now off the top of your head that you
That
cannot
has to be
wait
on
to
it.
like if you were able to see it on January 1st before anybody else?
Is this how we're starting it? We each get one to put on there with our ultimate
Yes,
choice.
the ultimate choice.
The trademark ultimate choice. We each get one movie. Man, that's tough. So I put together a preliminary list on Letterboxd, which was just kind of movies I'm excited for. But I know not every film has a release date, hence, it's not easy to slot that into a Letterboxd list and things like that. If I had one movie, I'm stalling, Eric, because I'm thinking, do you have one off the top of your head, or are you also
I
thinking
do.
it through?
Well, I had two, but I'm gonna go with something. I'm gonna go with one that is completely new, because one of the films that I'm very excited about is on the list from last year that will be carryover. But I want to introduce a new movie. I want to present the Iron Claw.
Oh, I agree with that.
The Von Erichs story, the wrestling family.
Is it because they have Eric in their name?
Yes, but also because it's directed by Sean Durkin.
Yeah.
This could be a big comeback year for Zac Efron, who really needs it after The Greatest Beer Run Ever and Firestarter. You have a film that, is being released by A24, which is a studio that has a lot of movies when it comes to high quality adult films that are not just superhero movies or kind of franchise kind of minded. So there's a lot there to appreciate, and I think the story itself is fascinating. And again, like, you have people like Jeremy Allen,
White.
Jeremy Allen White from The Bear, Harris Dickinson, who's just in Triangle of Sadness, Holt McElhaney. So like, it's going to be one of those movies that
looks like it's going to rule. Yeah, I'm me, I'm a huge, me and your brother are big wrestling guys, and like, I'm all in on this. I love Sean Durkin, so I'm all for that.
I submit to the jury, to the judge, the executioner, the Iron Claw.
So with this pick, this gets on the list no matter what, right?
Yes. Well, if you agree, then it's good.
Oh, you have to agree, or
well, it's my personal pick, but if you agree with it, it's even better.
Mm-hmm. But if say I was to choose something that you don't agree with right now,
well, then we would have to have a conversation about that.
I thought this was ultimate pick gets on the list.
Okay, you know what? Ultimate pick. But you have to be true to yourself. You have to be truthful. You can't just pick something that's an ultimate pick so you can get it through. You have to pick something that you truly want.
Okay, so
because I know what you're thinking, you son of a gun. And you can do that. But then,
if your question is, Matt, January 1st, you get to watch one movie right away. You get to skip to that movie.
Yeah, you'll be the first person to see it.
I can't, because you know what I was going to do. I was going to pick Saw X.
I know you were. I was
going to pick Saw X, but that's not an honest answer to that, because that would be a waste. If they were like, Matt, you could watch any movie in 2023 on January 1st. If I chose Saw X, I would want someone to punch me in the face.
Yeah.
So I won't do that. Man, because I'm thinking of ones that were, got bumped. I guess maybe it's recency bias, maybe because we've seen trailers, maybe it's because I was anticipating seeing them this year, but like, I have a lot of films that were supposed to be this year movies that got punted to next year that I think would be on that list. And I know there's some other ones that if I chose them, you'd probably be on the same page as me. So we can probably have, it's not that I'm trying to use this pick as something that you would veto or maybe would get bumped off of our list if I didn't choose it. Because I have things in my head like Across the Spider-Verse or Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Or I guess those are two that are up there for me. But then you know what I got to pick? The Super Mario Brothers movie, baby. I got to do it.
You're wearing those slippers, and that feels that it is true to you.
After seeing that trailer And I know I'm gonna love Across the Spider-Verse probably. Who knows? You don't know, but like I'm very excited for that. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. Come on, like everyone's pumped for that.
Tommy
Um,
Boy's back.
Super Mario Brothers movie is so specific to not to me, to millions of people. Obviously, it's not just for me, but and it's very much a kids movie, but it is something that's so important to who I am. And like video games and movies have always been that kind of 1-2 thing. It was video games and movies being two, and then that ultimately switched as I got older, and they are very close. But I'm more of a film and movie guy than I am a video game guy anymore. But I played Mario from the moment I came out of my mom's womb, basically. So like the Super Mario, I changed it the last second. I just seeing it done and done right is something I hope I can see. From everything I've seen, it looks like that's possible. So and I'm the most curious about it. And I think that's why it is this pick for me. When you're saying if you could choose one movie, and I know it comes out in the first half of the year, blah, blah, blah,
That's
blah,
fine.
blah. If you just said, Matt, you can choose any one of these movies, I'd probably choose that just because I want it to be good and I don't want to wait to see if it's good. You know what I mean? Like I'd want to know right away of will this, this and The Last of Us next year be those things that kind of open the floodgates when it comes to, you know, not that everything needs to be an adaptation of another popular IP and things like that. I want original movies as well, everyone.
But will this turn the
But
tide or the thinking of how video game adaptations
yeah.
don't work? Will this be the one that kind of, tells, at least from a theatrical point of view, that video game adaptations can be good?
Yeah, and not looked at like a lesser medium, right? Like I feel like not that people do that, but I feel like, gamers and people playing video games kind of get like sort of a bad rap. I know that's changed a little bit and everyone plays games. People play games on their phones, blah 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 blah. But video game movies especially too have just been awful for a very long time, and video game adaptations have been awful for a very long time. I have a soft spot for them. There's a lot of video game movies that are awful that I really enjoy, or at least have fun watching, like the original Super Mario Brothers, Mortal Kombat.
You love fungus.
Yeah, like I do. And we'll get to that. But yeah, it's got to be Super Mario Brothers. I think like I'm looking through, and there's obviously a lot of other stuff that I'm very excited to see, but both is like last year it was a troll pick kind of, and then this year it's like I've seen a little bit of footage from it. Am I still scared of Chris Pratt? Sure. It's not going to ruin the movie, I
Italian
don't
American
think.
actor Chris Pratt.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to ruin the movie for me. So I think that would be my pick that carries over from last year. Will some of these other movies make it on our list? I think a few of them probably will.
Yeah.
But that would be for the first two picks. I think Iron Claw and Super Mario Brothers movies are fun kind of additions. So I think that's a good way to kick it off. I appreciate that
Yeah, so
spontaneous idea.
those are on the board. So we have
Those are
two
on the board. We
movies.
have 19 more picks now because
Yes.
21 more picks. I can't do
21.
math. I don't know what year it is, everyone. So we have 21 more picks. How do you want to do this now, Eric? Do you want me to go through with stuff that has release dates month by month and kind of, I've made a preliminary list of like most anticipated stuff. I could go through that. We could go through everything. What do you want to do?
I think we should continue to pick things that we
Okay.
are
Go back and
most
forth,
excited
maybe.
about.
Yeah.
And then at the end, if there's something that we left off or we want to change, we can. But now we have to kind
So
of.
let's build that pool kind of thing.
Yeah,
Like
but
build
we
that
also
pool.
have to agree with each other to a certain extent to put it on the list as well. I think, we can make deals with each other. It's like, oh, well, if
Sure.
you want Saw X,
I'll give you
well,
Saw
you have,
X, but you got to give me 3 art house films.
so yeah, something like that. But I mean, not to that extent, because I want to have a good representation of both of our.
And a 2024 draft pick, so you get the first 2 picks next year.
Something like that I think is a lot of fun. So like I think like those
Okay.
are the things that we need to keep in mind in terms of that, because we could go through the year, but I think that could just be monotonous, where I think it would be fun just to be like, oh hey, like this is something
Things that we think could
looking.
potentially make it. So don't throw out
Yes.
things like Plane or Megan because they're in the first week
May I present to you
year.
Megan?
Yeah. Even Knock at the Cabin, Magic Mike, things like that. Even
Yeah.
Ant-Man, I don't know. Like, that's too early in the year. I guess February, you're starting to get to like, okay, I'll give you a pass, and that can be a most anticipated movie if you really want it to be.
Yeah.
But usually it's like, oh, I know those things are coming. Especially a third Ant-Man movie, I know what to expect. That's not going to make the list, everyone. I'm sorry. Even though I'm excited for Kang 2, but like, I'm
Kang
not.
2?
Yeah,
That
I'm
would be a
not.
good title.
I'm not
Kang 2.
putting it on the list. Okay, so since I did Super Mario Brothers, let's build a pool. So this isn't putting them on the list right now, everyone. We're just building
Other than the first two, I would say the first two are on the list.
First two are locked in. 23
Super Mario
most
Brothers and the
anticipated.
Iron Claw, which, I mean, the Iron Claw could be about the Mario family.
It could. So let's start throwing stuff in a big pool, and then once we count out how many movies are in there, we'll probably have over 23 or 21 of those. So then we can kind of start going, this is the most important thing for me to get in there, yada yada yada. So right now we have Beau is Afraid, The Killer of the Flower Moon, Poor Things, Across the Spider-Verse. I can eliminate Super Mario Brothers because it carried over. And we also have the Zone of Interest. So that's in the pool right now. Those are potential picks. So Eric, I'll toss
They're
it to
in
you.
the infinity pool.
Is there any, hey, there you go. That's also coming in January.
The end of
right?
January,
So,
yeah.
Anything you want to throw on the list right away not on the list, sorry, in the pool.
In the
potential pool. Yeah.
Okay.
You want to dip your toe in the pool with anything?
No, I don't want to dip my toe. I want to dip my bottom. And what I mean by bottom is Bottoms. Emma Seligman's follow-up to Shiva Baby.
Oh, I like that. See, that's something that I wouldn't have found on Wikipedia or even
no, because it's in post-production. But here's the log line. It's basically a version of Fight Club. 2 unpopular queer high school students start a fight club to have sex before graduation.
Okay, cool.
That's the log line. Rachel Sennott is back.
Yeah. Okay.
And everyone's favorite football player, Marshawn Lynch, is also in the movie.
I love Marshawn Lynch, man. Did you watch the Murderville holiday special?
No, I didn't.
It's funny.
Yeah,
well,
so
wait till next year. But
I think Bottoms has to be in the pool.
Okay, Bottoms
at least in the pool.
I like that. I like that pick. You go for some of the things that I have no idea that were coming out this year, probably, and then I'll throw out some obvious ones. We can like speed run through some of the big ones to kind of be in the potential list. So, earliest, like, I don't think Cocaine Bear is going to make our list. So like, let's not bother with that unless you really want to push.
No,
for
I
it.
think I think those are movies we're obviously going to cover and we're excited about. But it is one of those things where unless it is like a really, I mean, we're both excited about Megan and Plane, but it's for different reasons. And we want to be honest, like we want to pick things that we truly are. I almost feel like the cutoff should be, or like February almost.
It is. So I'll give some honorable mentions to Megan, to Plane, to Knock at the Cabin, to Magic Mike's Last Dance, to Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, to Cocaine Bear. But I will start the bidding at Creed 3 being potentially on the
not
list.
Kang
because
2 though.
No, because like I'm a little hesitant because Creed 2, good movie. Yeah, good movie, but like it's no Creed 1, right?
Yeah.
And with Michael B. Jordan directing the third one, I'm a little intrigued. With
no Stallone.
Kang 2 being in it,
yeah.
With Jonathan Majors being kind of the villain or the adversary and shot partially with IMAX cameras, and also Michael B. Jordan talking in interviews that anime was a big inspiration for him, because I know he's a big anime guy, for the boxing sequences and stuff. I'm like, that gets me pretty excited. But I'm going to say throw it in the pool. I don't know if it's going to make it. I'm excited for Creed 3, but I don't know how high my hype levels really are. I don't know how you feel.
I think he definitely needs to go in the pool because that's how boxers train.
Sure.
But no, I agree with you. I think like, Michael B. Jordan behind the camera is this new kind of factor, which like could be a make or break thing, or maybe like that won't be a problem at all. And maybe he'll just be like, he'll depend on the second unit to do a lot of that stuff. But this could be something that is very exciting. And like, why not? I mean, Stallone directed most of the
Yeah,
Rocky movies. And it's again, you have someone like Jonathan Majors, who is an incredible actor and a formidable foe.
absolutely fucking ripped in
These
this
guys
movie.
are just gonna be like fucking like, I gotta go to the gym after this, and like, yeah, and I think it's one of those early year movies that is both like it'll be a fun kind of blockbuster film, but also like maybe there'll be a little bit more to it in terms of its depth and what B. Jordan is saying, because like again, like that anime thing has me interested now, and like maybe this will change the style, maybe it won't, but maybe it will change the style of how we watch a sporting event, specifically two grown men beating each other up.
Yeah. So I'll throw Creed 3 out there. I could continue with some of the bigger ones, or if you want to throw something in
Well,
that you
let's
have.
go back and forth. Let's go
Yeah.
back and forth before we'll throw a lot of these in. So we'll there. Don't worry, everybody. There's going to be plenty.
Strap in. I got
It's going to
nowhere
be
to
a long
be.
one. So I want to put Miyazaki's next movie into the pool. How Do You Live? Which this is a film.
Lily.
Lily, how do you live?
That's a very TIFF joke. No one
Yeah.
will get that unless you went to TIFF like 4 years ago.
Which is a film that could actually end up playing at this year's TIFF. I think Miyazaki coming out of retirement to make this movie after directing The Wind Rises, which was supposed to be his swan song, is worth considering this in the top 23, especially as a filmmaker as influential and important as Miyazaki has been to the landscape of cinema.
I'm with you there. I think that's a strong candidate. Strong candidate. I'm all for that. Um, I don't have much else to say other than I'm absolutely with you there. I'll throw two honorable mentions out there that I'm not throwing for the potential to be on the list, but I am excited for both of them. Screevy, which is Scream 6, and John Wick Chapter 4. I'd say John Wick had a stronger chance, and I am very excited for John Wick. I know you're not a huge John Wick guy, so that's why I'm kind of just saying let's eliminate it now, because I feel
Right.
like there'll be better contenders for spots later. And same with Scream 6. I think a movie, Ghostface Takes Manhattan, we're looking forward to. It's not going to make these lists, but I did want to just throw them out there as two movies that I'm kind of excited for. But I don't know if you agree with that for
No,
me.
I'm excited. It's just fascinating that Scream 6 was finished so quickly,
Yeah.
and went into production. I mean, I think maybe one thing, if you want to look at it from a moral point of view, with Scream 6. Again, we don't know what's going on with it.
Yeah.
But the Nev Campbell thing, I think,
Yeah.
kind of maybe tarnishes it a little bit, because I mean, you got to give credit where credit's due and pay the person who's been the face of the franchise since the very beginning. I mean, obviously
Yeah.
Ghostface is the face, but I think Nev Campbell is a very important part. And when you don't honor somebody the way that they deserve to be honored and pay them properly, that's something where it kind of feels a little bit not icky, but just kind of like disingenuous.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like,
So
I'm with you. It's hard to say because we don't know like how big her role was supposed to be, like, or anything like that. And so
or
all
have
that
they
behind the
rectified
scenes
it
stuff,
since
like,
then and we don't know about it,
yeah,
right?
that could be a good thing too. We don't know, but yeah, I'm kind of with you on that as well. And I think bringing it to a new location is probably a good thing, and try something different. I know, like, is that a horror franchise thing? You go to New York first, then you're eventually in space by number 10. But
You can only hope.
we'll see. But yeah, I don't think either of those movies would make the list, but excited for both. The next one I want to throw out for the potential is Chris McKay's Renfield, starring one Nicolas Cage and Nicholas Holt. Come on, Nick Cage's Dracula. That's all you need to know, everyone. Come on.
Dracula's going in the pool.
Um,
He's taking a dip.
I don't know if you agree that it's a potential for the pool,
Yes.
but yeah,
I'm very curious about that movie. Again, I think like because of the pandemic, we don't know if this is connected to The Invisible Man, but it did feel that Universal was kind of starting to
trying to
mount
do that. New
not
dark
a dark,
universe.
yeah, the new dark universe, and new is spelled NU, like new metal. And it, I wonder if this will be the beginning of something, even having someone like Chris McKay direct this as his second live action
Is
feature.
it supposed to be a comedy or what?
I think it's a
'Cause,
horror.
like,
I think it's a
everyone
horror
involved,
comedy.
like Nicholas Hoult, Nicolas Cage, then you get Aquafina, Ben Schwartz. I'm like, okay, I don't know what this movie's gonna be, but I am morbidly curious.
I don't know if it'll be as funny as Vampire's Kiss, but I mean, that was a movie that was considered more avant-garde and experimental
Sure.
when it was released. But no, it is very exciting to see, Nick Cage, who's kind of, had a career resurgence with Pig, and now, last year, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, he's come back into his own. So just for that alone, Nick Cage's Dracula, all in, and him being inspired by Gabriel from Malignant as like the way that the character is going to move, bonus.
I'm all here for that. The log line for it is Renfield has grown sick and tired of his centuries as Dracula's lackey. The henchman finds a new lease on life and maybe even redemption when he falls for feisty, perennial, angry traffic cop Rebecca Quincy. So, all right.
Cool.
I wanted to throw that out there. Okay, Eric, your next movie for the potential pool.
Okay, so we were talking about boxing, not too long ago with Creed 3. I want
Already
to
got a
throw
wrestling
in.
movie.
We already got a wrestling. So there's going to be a lot of physicality, I think,
Let them fight
in our pool at least. So bodybuilding is where I want to go next. And the next movie is Saint Maud director Rose Glass's next film with Kristen Stewart, Ed Harris, Jenna Malone, Dave Franco, among others, and it's called Love Lies Bleeding, a romance fueled by ego, desire, and the American dream. That's the log line.
Love that. Cool.
So
Sounds
yeah.
dope. I love you bringing this stuff to the table because I had no idea that some of these are scheduled for this year, or potentially, right? Like they don't have release dates, but they're aiming
It's another
for this year.
A24 film as
Yeah.
well. So
Yeah. Look at you becoming the A24 boy.
We'll have some other stuff coming up. So.
I know. I could do like a big dump of movies right now and just get like a lot of the big blockbusters out of the way in the middle of the year, and we kind of have a bigger conversation about them if you want.
Sure. Yeah.
Let's do that instead of going back and forth and
Just
wasting
dump
like
it, baby.
a bunch of picks on the big middle of the year blockbusters. Let's just talk about them as a whole and which ones have a strong potential of making the list. So when you get into summer movie season, here are the movies I picked out as like the biggest movies of the summer kind of thing. We already, talked about John Wick leading into Mario Bros. And then you get Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Fast 10, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Transformers Rise of the Beasts. Not going to make the list, but I'm going to give it a shout out.
Let them come.
Elemental, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, the greatest movie title of all time. Oppenheimer, Barbie, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. Those are kind of the big, I would say, the big movies of the summer. So I'm throwing all of those movies out for conversation of what has a potential to make the list. I would say Across the Spider-Verse and Mission Impossible are the two that I think for both of us automatically get put onto the potential list.
Well, Tom Cruise has got to go in the pool, right? Because he can hold his breath
for slightly less than Kate Winslet.
So it has to happen. But I agree with both of those films being on there, and I think even Barbie and Oppenheimer need to be in the pool at least. And I actually, we didn't talk about it. We haven't talked about the trailers or the teasers for either one of those films.
Do that. Yeah.
I actually liked Oppenheimer a lot more than I was thinking.
The trailer.
Yeah. It's still very much what I was expecting it to be.
Yeah.
But it works well as I think there was a time when Christopher Nolan was going to direct The Aviator, or had a version of The Aviator about Howard Hughes's life.
And this kind of reminds you of when he was going to do that.
Yeah, and it kind of feels like, because we didn't get, because it was going to be with Jim Carrey too as Howard Hughes, and that was in the early 2000s, and then Michael Mann was developing The Aviator, was going to direct it, but then also had a fear of flights or heights and flying. And so he was like, oh, I'm just going to
Probably
produce
not the
this
best
thing.
movie to make if you're afraid of flying.
Yeah, and then Scorsese came on is kind of more of like it was a job after Gangs of New York kind of didn't do as well commercially, so it was kind of like him taking a gig and working with DiCaprio again. This kind of feels like, okay, now Nolan is making his historical drama about the most horrific weapon of mass destruction ever made, and the man responsible for that, but also realizing the horrors that he's put out into the world. So I'm very curious about that, and it does look good. Like it does have that
Oh, it
kind
looks
of
like a Nolan movie. It
yeah,
has that look to it. He's truly an auteur at this point. But like,
and it's got to be better than Tenet. It's got to be better than Tenet.
yeah, Tenet's a movie I've wanted to revisit. Like, I've just wanted to like get really high and watch Tenet or something. Like, I feel like that's the only way you can comprehend that movie, is it being on the same level it is as it, which is just being completely ripped off your mind. Um, I will. I agree with you. I liked the Oppenheimer trailer. I've heard the IMAX trailer that they played before Avatar is better, and someone described it as the tones being completely different. Where this looked like a dad movie, where the IMAX one had a hellish tone to it, like a more kind of that Nolan kind of tick tick like time. We talked about
Yeah.
actually off air about time. Um, but that kind of like ticking time bomb, to be very literal, of like this hellish tone of like this awful thing that this person is building. So I don't know. I almost want to be Spicy Boys and not put a Nolan movie
Ooh.
on the most anticipated. Like,
But it's
part
hard
of
when
me,
both of those movies are coming out supposedly still on the same
yeah.
day, right? It's
We'll
almost
get to
like you
Barbie. We'll get to Barbie, but
you can't
like,
have one without the other,
I
almost
know.
it's
Or you have one without the other and just
oh,
put
you're
your
making a
fucking
real
foot down.
choice.
You make a statement. And then like, I'm kind of leaning towards that, where you gotta choose a side. They're fighting, and you gotta choose a side. So
Let them
I'm putting it
fight.
out there that you have to choose Barbie or Oppenheimer, and both of
Oh,
them cannot
interesting.
be on
Interesting.
the list. Cause like, I think that's more interesting. I don't know. Like, I'm obviously excited for a new Christopher Nolan movie. I think his movies I like more on rewatch sometimes. Like, that happened with Dunkirk and a lot of his filmography. Um, I loved the guy. I was, when I was in film school, I was obsessed with the guy. He just made the Batman movies. Inception was fantastic, and like, he's your classic film bro guy if you're of our age, of like, you love Chris Nolan. And I think a lot of people do. Oppenheimer, I'm curious. I liked the trailer. Do you think he's going to do any historical fiction in it, or is he going to play it straight?
I think there'll be some. I mean, there's always liberties, no
I
matter
know,
what.
but
Like
I mean,
even when
like,
you play it as
like,
straight as possible, you still have to structure the story you're telling around. Like
I
even if there are
understand that, but I mean,
conversations
like,
that didn't happen in public, right?
artistic liberty is different than historical fiction, in my opinion, where it's just like you can
Right.
take some liberties of like, but the story you're telling is very much the actual story. You change things to make it more exciting or XYZ. But like, do you think there'll be any weird, Nolan angle to it, whether it's a sci-fi
Batman will
angle
show
to
up.
it, or yeah, the bomb was the bomb he drove out at the end
Oh,
of,
Dark Knight Rises,
yeah,
which Cillian Murphy
um,
was in.
yeah.
Scarecrow, what are you doing?
I
Swear to me.
I don't know if there's going to be that angle to it, or if he'll play it very straight, or he'll do, Dunkirk, I guess, played it very straight, right? But he still did it in his own way.
Yeah. See,
So
that's the way I think he's going to do it. I think he's going
yeah,
to play it straight, but he's going to play it in a way that again manipulates time within the editing of the film. Like
yeah,
how are we going to see this presented, or how is it going to play out, structurally speaking? Are we going to get something that is told in a linear fashion? Are we going to get
absolutely not.
segments of the story that'll go back and forth in time? Are like
Absolutely, we will.
yeah,
So like,
is some of it going back to the Memento black and white, and
yeah,
Sammy
and that's
Jenkins will be
exactly.
mentioned.
I
So
mean, I was just going to bring that up. It's the first IMAX film to be shot in black and white IMAX photography, right? Like he used
Yes,
black and
and
white film
parts of the film,
for
not the
it.
whole
Yes, not the
movie.
whole thing. As you can see from the trailer, it's only parts of it. So anyways, we'll put them both on the potential list. I am
They're
just
both in
throwing
the
that.
pool for right now.
Yeah,
Yes.
like they're both in the pool. On the Barbie front, thought the teaser trailer was awesome. Poking fun at 2001, and I think even having that tone right off the bat of a movie that was just on the Sight and Sound #1 film for directors list, not on the critics list. It was on there obviously, but not #1. But like one of the greatest movies of all time, to kind of satirize that in its opening and then just lead into this bright pink Barbie logo and then just have the most insane fucking clips that are 2 seconds long each that you have no idea what the fuck is happening. And it's just a Barbie movie with like really big stars and directed by Greta Gerwig and co-written by Noah Baumbach. I'm like, all right, everyone, you got to be in on this movie. How can you not be? It could go completely the opposite way and be an absolute disaster or a mess. Um, but I think just again, that curiosity of like, what the hell is this movie? And like rumors that Will Ferrell's playing like the president of Mattel or something like that, which is similar to President Business or Lord Business in Lego movie. But so like I think it'll be this irreverent kind of like really, really fun um probably satire on gender and sex, and not sex as in like but like
Well, sexism and
sexual, but
stereotypes and
yeah,
things like that
because
in
that's
terms of
like
like
even the
what Barbie was made for originally and how
exactly
it's
what Ken was
evolved over
made for,
time.
and
Yeah.
exactly. And I think it's going to deconstruct that in a really funny and fun way. So I'd say out of the two, I'm more excited for Barbie because I'm more curious. I kind of know what Oppenheimer is going to be, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think, but I obviously it's a new Chris Nolan movie. It's going to look insane on IMAX. Barbie's going to look really colorful and bright, and it seems like it's a musical as well. I have no
Truman
idea.
Show-esque a little bit as
Yeah,
well. Yeah, I think like again, like it's almost that teaser gives you enough to be even more intrigued, but at the same time, you still don't know what's going on. Where, being a historical drama with Oppenheimer, you get the sense of, okay, this is how Nolan's executing this storyline. This is how it'll play out. There's not much there in terms of like imagination. I'm sure the filmmaking will be grand and amazing to watch on an IMAX screen, but the unknown of Barbie is what kind of is really fascinating, because it does feel like, Greta Gerwig is a great filmmaker and a great actor, and she's done incredible work obviously with Lady Bird and Little Women, and now this kind of feels almost
probably
like,
could have done anything she wanted, and then to
yeah,
do
and she's
Barbie
really
after.
cashing in her chips with this, and having kind of, co-wrote this with Noah Baumbach, and where this property was originally started with Amy Schumer and then Anne Hathaway, and now it becoming a Greta Gerwig directed, starring vehicle for Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling, and bringing all these kind of, big name actors that have been in a lot of sort of, tentpole movies in the last few years, and playing sort of with the notion of what Barbie means to the modern world, and maybe in the process also breaking the glass ceiling and playing with conventions and stereotypes that are common within the realm of, the universe that Barbie lives in, and compared to the world that we live in now. And sort of, this might be like the closest thing to almost like a modern version of Enchanted in a weird way, like kind of bringing that into fruition. So I would say that probably Barbie, just on the level of intrigue, is probably higher on that list of curiosities
Yeah,
and its anticipation overall. And like even just talking about it, like it's like, okay, there's still a lot there to kind of like be discovered. It might not work, but it's like, okay, there's so many possibilities, and even if it doesn't work, at least it'll be, a film like Damien Chazelle's Babylon that really swings for the fences and has a filmmaker just, cashing it all in and being like, I'm going to make the
on
movie
Barbie.
I want to make,
Yeah, no, I'm here for it. Yeah,
So
no.
yeah.
So definitely put both of those. I'd say I think you have to put, out of the animated films that I brought up, you have Across the Spider-Verse, Elemental, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. I know we're both Ninja Turtle boys, but like I don't know if that film makes the list. Like I I'm very excited for it. Directed by Jeff Rowe, who uh he was part of the Mitchells and versus the Machines team, right?
Yes.
Which I absolutely loved. You know, you have Seth Rogen, who is a producer on it, and with Evan Goldberg. Um, we don't know any of the cast yet. But I just, even from that logo and who's involved, I'm very excited for it. I don't know if it has a turtle's chance in hell to make this list, but
Well, there's
I
another animated movie as well that we didn't mention that maybe should be in consideration, which is Wildwood, the new Leica film,
okay.
which is being released later this year, and it has a voice cast including Carey Mulligan, Angela Bassett, Jermaine Clement, Charlie Day. Just looking at the list now: Jake Johnson, Aquafina, Mahershala Ali, Richard E. Grant, Amanda Stenberg. And it's directed by Travis Knight, who is the founder of
Director of Bumblebee.
Yes, and he has a weird rapper name that is very good as well. Because I'm looking this up now because I gotta remember this. This is good.
I remember you telling me this, I think.
Because his dad's also
But-
like the creator of or co-creator of either Nike or Adidas.
Oh, he's a Nepo baby.
He's a Nepo
baby?
child.
Nepo baby.
Phil
The
Knight,
Nepo?
yeah. His rapper name, his musical name is Chili T.
God damn it.
And Phil Knight is
only a Nepo baby can be Chili T and still have a career in directing.
co-founder and chairman of Nike. But it's an interesting Nepo thing because he could have done anything, and yet now he's
but it's all about connections, dude. If your dad's the fucking head of Nike, you can. I'm not saying I like Travis Knight. I liked Bumblebee.
No, but he used his nepotism for good. I'm
good,
saying like,
sure.
but like, you know, when you're thinking of like, I don't necessarily disagree with you. Where
a nepotism baby conversation.
No. I think when someone says like, oh, you know, like, it's hard for me to look for jobs or like get my foot in the door. It's like, well, that's bullshit because like you have that foot in and like that sort of
when
advantage.
They have those connections.
Yeah. I think one thing that Nepo children, you know, that you could argue for them though is that it does sometimes, even if you are a Nepo baby and you try to get into something and it doesn't work, time is the ultimate factor of that thing, you know, longevity and like whether or not you have a, you know, fledgling career in something and disappear, or then you know, like you look at like, I mean, obviously Jamie Lee Curtis has been very, you know, vocal about this recently, but you look at Jamie Lee Curtis's career. Yes, Tony Curtis and Janet Leigh were her parents, and she obviously had more opportunities than other people that had no connections to the industry. But the reason why she has stood the test of time
is because she's good at what she does. Yeah,
isn't simply because she's a Nepo
agree
baby.
with that. I do agree that it helps you get your foot in there, but like you still need to be, you know, for the most part, talented to succeed in a certain area. So like I
just find it funny that Travis Knight is like,
90% of it is getting your foot in the door though. There's so many people who would be great at something and probably are great at something, but they'll never get the shot to be great at something, I guess is what I mean. So anyway,
but it's funny that
the Nepo cast,
but it's funny that Travis Knight is a guy that's
Chili
like
T, okay?
Chili T is a guy that's like, you know, I could do anything with, you know, my connections, things like that. I'm going to run a stop motion animation company that probably has no business existing in this day and age. And work in Portland. Hey, you know I mean, that's weirdly inspiring in some ways.
All right, both Elemental and what's the movie called that you just mentioned from Leica?
Okay, I gotta look it up. It's Wildwood.
Wildwood. I'll put both Elemental and Wildwood on there. Elemental, the only Pixar movie next year, is that correct?
Well, there's the TV series, right? Which we're not including, but that is the other, I think, Pixar production. Unless there's something we're not thinking of.
I'll look right now. And you agree with me with the Ninja Turtles thing? I'm assuming.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I think it would have been in the 23 if we knew that Josh Pays was returning as Raphael.
Sure.
If that
Eric
was if
saw
that
Josh Pays at a party we were at, and the whole night wouldn't shut up about it.
Josh Pays, man, he's awesome. Great character actor, and yeah, like if he was
Elemental
cast,
is the only Pixar movie next year.
was kind of interesting. I mean, we don't want to put the fire elements in the pool, but definitely the water can be in there.
RRR, baby, the fire and the water.
See, another movie we could have never predicted that would
No,
be.
and we didn't talk about that, which let's just a side tangent for a second. Top Gun Maverick, RRR, Everything Everywhere All at Once, not on our list last year.
Nope.
I mean, After Sun you already brought up, but that was more of like a came out of nowhere kind of thing. And I guess I don't know if we would have ever thought of RRR. And I'm sure we had a discussion about Everything Everywhere being like, oh, it's the guys who did the Farting Corpse movie. And we're like, oh, that sounds interesting, multiverse movie, but like had no idea at the time, right? So
Yeah.
I wonder if we did talk about it on last year's show or not. I forget.
Maybe
but
we did. I think I probably would have brought it up just because
Top Gun
I
we
am
probably talked about
an
it too.
indie boy, so
Yeah.
an indie lad.
Okay, I will. So out of those movies, you think Guardians or Fast X have a shot? I mean, I'm excited for both of them. I would say that like,
I think Guardians is
yeah,
I think both are interesting, but again, like who knows what Fast X is going to be given
you know
the
what? I think
production problems.
exactly. I think I'm with Louis Leterrier being the new director. That makes me go, not going to make the list. I just like, I think that alone with, you know, how the rumors of how Vin Diesel, you know, acted with it all and over the years. And like, I'm super pumped for Fast X. Don't get me wrong. And same with Guardians. I think Guardians has a chance, so I threw that on the potential, but I'm going to eliminate both Fast X and Transformers Rise of the Beasts.
Yes.
I know we're
Even
both
though
Beast,
the Beast,
we're Beast
Beast
Boys.
Wars.
We're Beast Boys. I know that, but like,
Yeah.
and I know like out of all the Transformers movies, like after Bumblebee, I have more hope. Where I'm like, you know, I think this could be, you know, fun, and especially it takes place in the 90s. It's involving beasties / Beast Wars. I'm
Director
super
of Creed 2, though, right?
yeah,
Stephen Cable
Jr. Yeah,
Jr. Yeah.
So I'm excited for it. Fast X, super pumped for it. But I don't know. I think with Louis Leterrier, who I don't know, have I liked a single Louis Leterrier?
You're a
movie?
huge The Incredible Hulk fan.
No. Like Now You See Me, Incredible Hulk, Clash of the Titans, both Transporter movies, Grimsby. He directed Grimsby.
I would say Transporter
Grimsby I kind of liked, but like he directed a movie in 2022 called The Takedown. Oh, it was a French movie. Okay.
Yeah, it was on Netflix.
Okay. Anyways, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say I would say
the
Transporter and Unleashed is okay. The Danny the Dog movie with Jet Li and Bob Hoskins. Although it's been a while since I've seen that,
so I think Fast X, I don't know if you're in agreement, doesn't even make the potential list.
Yeah, I mean it's still gonna be fun to watch it, but it's one of those movies where I think like it's almost going to be a car wreck of a film as well, where it's like you're going to be morbidly curious just to see how off the rails everything is given the behind the scenes stuff. But a lot of people won't even realize that.
No,
you know,
I know. That's a very inside baseball kind of thing. But Gal Gadot rumored to come back. Can't wait for how they explain that. Mr. Nobody slid under the plane and caught her majestically, like right before she hit the ground. And then Guardians, I will throw on there because out of the Marvel stuff next year, movie wise,
yeah, like what do we have movie wise? Like Ant-Man and Guardians are the two that are only coming to my mind.
I think those might be the only two, really. Marvel Studios movies. We got to be missing something, right?
Because there were some delays, right? Because of like Blade being put on the back burner a little bit, and
because this would be the beginning of Phase 5, correct?
Yeah.
Oh, we have the Marvels in late 2023.
So you're going to say Leterrier 2023.
Oh no,
Vote Louis Leterrier.
Marvel's is in July, and then that's the last movie. So they're very front loaded. No, that makes me think.
Well,
Would
don't they
this
have
be?
series though as
They
well?
do. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, they do. Um, and they've always been kind of a front loaded. Other than like if a Spider-Man movie comes out, then that usually comes out in like December.
Yeah, because
Um,
Black Panther Wakanda Forever was a November release, right? So
yeah,
like after Thor Love and Thunder, it was, you know, like there is the odd one like Shang-Chi, but that again kind of was like in the midst of like people coming back to the theater after the pandemic as well. And I think again it had been delayed so much.
yeah. So yeah, we have Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and the Marvels, which is February, May, July, and then nothing for the second half of the year, which is Disney must have other stuff that I'm not thinking of, which we'll get into. But I'd say out of those three Marvel movies, I think we're both on the same page with Volume 3 being the one that will probably maybe have a chance of making this list.
Yes.
Um, where
Yes.
Marvel's sure. I liked Miss Marvel enough. Captain Marvel was okay. Um, I like what's her name from WandaVision as well. Tiana Paris. Paris, is that her name?
Tiana Paris, yeah.
Tiana Paris, yeah, she's great too. So like, I'm excited for that. Just don't know much. And Nia DaCosta, like, I liked her Candyman movie.
I am the
I think,
Candy Man, come in
I
from
think
Bounty Land.
I think she's
Aqua?
talented, so I'm excited to see what she does with a Marvel movie. But I would say James Gunn coming back to do Guardians. That trailer we haven't talked about either, but have we?
No, we
Um,
haven't. I don't think we have.
um, Thought it was very funny. Looks like Guardians. Like, I'm glad James Gunn's back. I laughed quite a
One
bit.
last time.
Looks like it'll be emotional with Rocket's story. Come on, there's an otter named Lila in this. Come on, I'm in.
Which we don't know who voices her, right? Like that hasn't been announced
No,
yet.
but
So.
although I think who was the person that we don't? Oh, from the Suicide Squad, Daniela Melicoir, right?
Oh yeah,
Melicoir.
she's really good as Ratcatcher too.
She's in the movie, and we don't know what part she's playing. So I could see her being
The voice.
Lila, but maybe she has a live action role we don't know about. I made a joke about it being Lady Gaga when because Bradley Cooper when
Yeah, I got it. The connection. He
Star is
also has a
Born.
movie coming out this upcoming year playing
Yeah,
Leonard Bernstein.
we've seen photos. You showed me. Yeah, Eric made it. Everyone go look it up if you can. But all right, we're getting lost in the weeds here. Let's get back. That was our blockbuster talk that took up a big chunk of the middle. So we put on Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, Barbie, Oppenheimer, Elemental, Wildwood, and Guardians Volume 3 on the potential list.
Yes, they're all in the pool.
This is going to be a beefy episode. Okay,
But
Eric.
this is good though. I think we're trying to cover all our bases in a way.
So I just threw out a big group. Do you have like a group of movies that are sort of
I have
similarly themed or something? Maybe.
Well, some smaller movies. Yes,
throw them out. I'm going to be listening. I'm going to get a water or something.
Okay, just leave while I'm about to start, talking.
I'm gonna talk about
Okay, buddy. See ya. I thought we were friends. Yeah. So a lot of those movies I am very much excited for, and like again, not including Top Gun Maverick on our list, considering what we know now in retrospect, that seems like a big miss on our parts, and even like something like Tar, which I know Matt didn't like, but I do really like Todd Field's other two films, is also a strange one that I wouldn't have put on that list. So, again, we're not going to get to everything, but a movie that I think a lot of people are very excited about that is coming in 2022 is Emerald Fennell's Saltburn, which I think is going to be
I'm giving thumbs up if you were watching the video.
Which is going to be a movie that a lot of people will be anticipating, given that she won an Oscar for original screenplay for Promising Young Woman. She also actually has a role in the Barbie movie. Margot Robbie is a producer on Promising Young Woman and on Saltburn with her company. So I think that's a film that people will be very much excited to see once it's announced in terms of what its release date is. It probably will be a fall film, or maybe it'll play at Cannes. Maybe it'll be one of those movies, because Promising Young Woman played, as the pandemic was coming in, but played at Sundance. So you could see, Saltburn kind of, playing one of the festivals or many of the festivals. So you have a cast that includes Barry Keoghan, Rosamund Pike, Carey Mulligan, Jacob, is it Elrod? I can never.
Lordy.
Lordy, Lordy, Richard E. Grant. So it's a pretty solid cast. So again, I think it's one of those movies that a lot of people will be very much excited. And the cinematographer is Linus Sandgren, who shot Babylon.
Baby.
And No Time to Die. So I think that's one that a lot of people will want to check out. The log line is pretty vague. It just says it follows an aristocratic English family.
Yeah, the one thing that scares me, I'm a simple man that does not really love period pieces.
I know, but you loved Promising Young Woman.
I know, so that I had it on my preliminary list that I put together. It's absolutely on the potential, and will probably make the main list just because of how much I loved Promising Young Woman.
Okay.
Not that I'm the final say, but you're the one throwing it out.
No. And I think we need to add a little bit of salt into this pool, because it's getting full of bacteria with all these other movies. You got to keep it clean. So another film that I want to consider for this list is another reuniting of actors. You have the two leads of The Worst Person in the World coming back together for an adaptation of Handling the Undead, which is based on a book from the writer of Let the Right One In, which I'll read the log line. It follows three families, each having a tragic loss. A mother and a daughter mourn the too early passing of a grandson. Tora says her final goodbye to her wife, and a family of four faces a life without a wife and mother. Based on the book, which I did read back in 2008 or 9, when Let the Right One In was kind of becoming very popular.
You a book boy?
Sometimes it just depends. It just depends on the subject matter and what intrigues me. But I remember being obsessed with Let the Right One In, and reading the book and then reading the author's other stuff. And Handling the Undead is one of those books where it's it is a very powerful study in loss and grief. And even though we've gotten a lot of that in horror movies as of late, when we talk about the phrase elevated horror or social horror, or that kind of aspect, I think that this is one of those movies that a lot of people will be excited about, just on selling it on the two leads from The Worst Person in the World being in it, but also an adaptation from that author as well. So I'm very curious about it. Neon picked it up late last year, or as we're recording this year. So could it be another Parasite? Because Neon also did the same thing when they were picking up that movie at the American film market, and it became a worldwide phenomenon. So we'll see how that goes. I think that's one definitely, even if it doesn't make the list, worth keeping an eye out on.
What's it called again? Handling the Undead?
Handling the Undead.
Cool.
Yes. So another movie that I am very curious about, which I believe just finished shooting, is a film called May December. This is Todd Haynes' next movie with Julianne Moore and Natalie Portman. And this log line is kind of meta, and also is dealing with very taboo subject matter. So May December is essentially about, I'll read the log line right here because I could paraphrase it, but it's better for me just to read it as it is. 20 years after their notorious tabloid romance gripped the nation, a married couple buckles under the pressure when an actress arrives to do research for a film about their past. So that's May December.
That's the title?
Yes. Really solid leading actors. Very kind of melodramatic, but also touchy subject matter, because the relationship that they're referring to is about a student teacher relationship. And so where does that go? And then again, the idea of exploring it through the guise of film and making a movie about it, and sort of what are the ethical ramifications of that. So that's another movie that I could definitely see playing at Cannes, because Todd Haynes has always been one of those guys that his works end up there. So I think that that's one definitely to keep in mind when it comes to um, what potentially should be on the list. Another movie that Neon picked up that I'm very curious about is The Royal Hotel, which is from the director of The Assistant, which I
Okay.
think is another movie that is also dealing with abuse of power and sexism, but within sort of traveling. And so you have Julia Garner reuniting with Kitty Green and Jessica Henwick teaming up, and the story is about two friends who resort to who travel to on a working holiday at the Royal Hotel, which is notorious for cycling through young female employees constantly. They end up subjected to mind games and manipulation, trapped in the middle of nowhere. So it
Love
almost
that.
sounds like a social horror thriller kind of thing. And again, The Assistant's one of those movies that is very subtle, but gets under your skin. And I think it's one worth keeping an eye on. So another one that I'm really curious about, that's being produced by Emma Stone, that is from the director of We're All Going to the World's Fair, which is a horror movie that I only just saw a few months ago, even though it played at Sundance a while ago. Is a movie that I think might even be up your alley. So the director, and I apologize if I'm pronouncing their name wrong, Jane Schonenbrunn, who directed We're All Going to the World's Fair, is directing a new film that's an A24 movie called I Saw the TV Glow. Follows two
It's a dope ass name.
follows two teenagers who bond over their shared love of a scary television show, but the show gets mysteriously canceled. And this cast is ridiculous.
That
You
sounds
have
awesome.
Danielle Deadweiler, Justice Smith, Bridget Lundy Payne, Amber Benson, and I'm saving the best for last, Fred Durst.
No.
Yes.
Director Fred Durst.
Oh, yeah. You know what
I
time
love
it is,
that.
baby.
Love that.
So,
Threw it on
yeah,
there.
those are some movies that it's like, okay, like I could see that playing at Midnight Madness at TIFF,
Yeah.
or it also playing, it just a TIFF in general, because, like this, actually I have a copy of it right here because I bought it at Bay. Haven't opened it yet, but
Not a sponsor.
We're All Going to the World Fair.
Oh, it's a dope ass cover.
Yeah. So it's a really good movie.
For audio listeners, Eric showed a cover for We're All Going to the World's Fair.
Now there's a couple movies that I just kind of want to quickly run through that I'm not even sure that are going to be released this year, because they've been shooting in the fall, or I don't even know if they've gone into production yet. But you have Steve McQueen's Blitz, which is a World War II British drama. You have Sofia Coppola's Priscilla, which is the story about Priscilla Presley and her relationship with Elvis. You have movies like, talking about films that are morbid curiosities. I don't think this will make the list, but I'm still weirdly curious to see how it will all turn out, is the Meg 2, directed by Ben Wheatley.
Oh, yeah.
You have Night Bitch with Amy Adams, being directed by the filmmaker behind A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. You have David Lowery's Peter Pan and Wendy, which is going to be a Disney Plus release
for this year. Yeah.
Yes. You also have a film called Strangers, which is really a fascinating sounding movie. I'll read this to you. It has Claire Foy in the lead, and Paul Mescal's in it as well. And it's from Andrew Haig, who directed 45 Years, but it's nothing like what 45 years is at all. So it tells the story of a screenwriter who, after an encounter with his neighbor, is pulled back to his childhood home, where he discovers that his long dead parents are living and look the same age as the day they died. And that's a Fox Searchlight movie, or a Searchlight film, whatever they
So
call it.
none
Yeah.
of these are confirmed for next year, but you have a feeling they might be.
Yeah, so some of them are in post-production now. Like Strangers is in post-production.
I'd say anything in post-production has a good shot. Anything shooting now, maybe at the very end of next year, but
Yeah. Yeah, and like that's the same. And you know what? They might also want to save some of those movies too. Like I could see Apple being like, okay, well, we've got Killers of the Flower Moon, and we have Napoleon coming out this year. Let's
Yeah.
save Steve McQueen's Blitz until 2024, and part of that ensemble as well. You have Saoirse Ronan, and if that's an Oscar movie, I could see her kind of being touted to be, win an Oscar. At this point, she's been nominated 4 times, and it's
Good
like,
Widows was, and no one cared.
man, that movie rules. Like the camera work in that like Daniel Kaluuya, I obviously, like, he gives an amazing performance this year in Nope. But I think he is one of my favorite actors working. I honestly think like everything he's done,
I don't disagree.
He's always good. Like he's always good.
I agree, even in like, small roles. Any of those do you want to throw on this potential?
I would say Strangers, maybe. I Saw the TV Light Glow is another one
I did
that
put
I
that
think
one on, yeah.
Yeah, that one really sounds like it could be something special and weird, which, 2 things I like.
Cool.
Yeah, let me just double check. So
we can always
I'll
go back to it too, but yeah.
So I'll just read off a couple other things, because again, another movie that's in production. Wes Anderson's Asteroid City.
I have that on.
You also
here.
have Wes Anderson's other movie that
Henry Sugar. Yeah.
Yeah. So we could also have 2 Yorgos Lanthimos movies with, Poor Things kind of moving from 2022 to 2023, but And is another one. But I think that
I
is
had both of those on there. Yeah.
Still shooting or just finished shooting. Eileen is a movie that is playing at Sundance, directed by William Oldroyd, who directed Lady Macbeth, and it stars Anne Hathaway and Thomasin McKenzie. And I'll just read you the log line for this, and it sounds interesting. I don't know if we'll be able to see it, because I don't know if it's going to be an in-person screening only, but if we can,
hopefully not,
we will watch it, because one of the writers is also one of the co-writers on Causeway.
Okay.
And she's okay. Here it is.
Stalling for Eric. There you go.
Yeah, just stalling here till I get it up. So, a woman's friendship with a new coworker at the prison facility where she works takes a sinister turn. Ooh, scary.
Sounds cool.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll come back to a lot of that at the end. Okay, I can do a batch of movies here. I think it's better to do maybe a batch than back and forth.
And Rebel Ridge. I just want to quickly say Rebel Ridge is another one that I'm very curious about. Jeremy Saulnier's movie, because John Boyega left and Aaron Pierre came in to replace him.
I love Saulnier, but like wasn't there a weird thing with there with him dropping out, or was it just like creative?
I thought it was
family
related
stuff, right?
Yeah.
But then
it says it's in post-production, and a high-velocity thriller that explores systematic American injustices through bone-breaking action sequences, suspense, and dark humor. The cast includes James Badge Dale, Don Johnson, Anna Sophia Robb, James Cromwell, Emery Cohen, as mentioned, Aaron Pierre. So written and directed by Jeremy Saulnier, a Netflix movie. Another underrated film is Hold the Dark. So
yeah, another movie no one talked about, no one cared. I fucking loved it. Man, yeah, good ass movie. Green Room's great, Blue Ruin's great. Ooh, Rebel Ridge, strong contender. Good one, Eric.
That's why I'm here, man. I'm here for the good ones. Not your
Better Call Saul. Yeah, it's coming up right now. Yeah, so we got a couple. I can go like The horror route, maybe. I'll just go over a bunch of movies that are coming out
Yep.
later in the last bit of the movie. I'll handle a lot of the big blockbusters. You handle the indie picks and stuff like that. A movie that's not gonna make the list, but A Haunting in Venice. Got to give a shout out to the mustache.
But he shaved it though at the end of
I know, but you think it's oh
Death
yeah,
on the
he did.
Nile.
Yes, he's got to have the mustache back.
Another
right?
origin story for the mustache returning.
Poirot returns in kind of a. I like I like this because I like that it's like a Halloween kind of movie. Like
I like
it's
the
a
original
horror,
title better though. The book that
what's
it's
the book
based
title?
on. It's like Halloween, like it's something really ridiculous. It almost sounds like Hubie Halloween. Hold on, I'm gonna look this up.
And after Glass Onion and I think the Poirot, the Brana Poirot movies haven't been great, but I've kind of enjoyed them for what they were.
They're fun.
Yeah, like they're both 3 out of 5 movies pretty much, but like I still enjoy the hell out of them. Go ahead.
Halloween Party. It's just called Halloween Party. They should have went with Halloween Party.
There's no way they were gonna do a Halloween Party.
That would have been amazing. And it's also, I'm looking at the cast now, less problematic than the previous 2 casts.
Who's gonna do something horrible before the movie comes out?
I'm looking at you. Oh, I mean, Tina Fey has kind of done something horrible, but I mean, with the whole blackface thing on 30 Rock,
Sure.
right? And trying to cover it up after the fact. But you have Michelle Yeoh, Kelly Riley, Brana's reteaming with Jamie Dornan,
and
Camille Cotton, who's kind of a rising star right now with both Stillwater and House of Gucci, and she's been in some stuff like that. Kyle Allen, who was Romeo and Rosaline, is in there. So yeah, I mean, it's not going to make our list, but honestly,
I give it a shout out because I am excited.
Fun movies. That mustache, man, that origin story.
It's so stupid.
There needs to be
so
origin
funny.
stories for facial hair.
It's so funny. A movie I'm curious about: David Gordon Green's The Exorcist.
Yeah.
And then Saw X. We're not going to put it on the list. I'm excited for it. It would be kind of a troll thing. I don't want to waste a spot on the list for Saw X. I know I joked about it. I know I'm kind of conceding very early on the Saw X train. I am a personal...
Fight for what you want to have on the list.
Fine, it's going on the potential pool.
Do it, man. Do it.
Saw X is going on the potential pool.
Tobin Bell is back.
Exorcist, do you care that much? Or
it's weird because I really love the William Friedkin film a lot, like the first movie, and I really love Exorcist 3. So I'm not against, like, I mean, The Exorcist, the beginning is terrible, both the Schrader and Rennie Harlan version. So I'm not against like a reimagining of it. I don't know if we need, because this is supposed to be another trilogy, right? Like this is supposed to be Gordon Green doing another trilogy of films, isn't it?
I mean, I know we both not loved. Like
no, Halloween Ends, I think like, is actually like the more I think about that film, I think it is like I almost wish they started there.
Yeah.
I mean, I really like his Halloween as well. But I think Halloween Ends, like if The Exorcist was like Halloween Ends, and I know this is like a hot take or, a very kind of, I'm in the minority here a little bit, but I think if The Exorcist was anything like Halloween Ends and actually did some things that were a little bit different than just simply rehashing The Exorcist. That's why I think Exorcist 3 is such a great movie up until The Exorcist at the end, because William Peter Blatty didn't want to make an Exorcist movie. It was based on his book Legion, and it was about demon possession, but there was no exorcism in it. And the studio was like, no, you have to have an exorcism in
it's
the
called
film.
The Exorcist. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because he fought against that because he wanted to call it Legion as well. And they're like, no, we need to brand it based on, this series of films that we've made.
Yeah, I'd have to rewatch The Exorcist. It's been a while, but it's never been one of those horror movies that I go back to very often or I even have a ton of reverence for. So like I'm I don't know. I'm curious. I like David Gordon Green's couple of Halloween movies, minus the middle one, but and I know we are in the
Pazuzu
minority,
dies
but
tonight.
so I
That's
don't
the
know.
name of the demon
I don't
in
think it'll
the
make our list,
Exorcist.
so I don't think
No,
it'll make it.
and it's a good cast too, because you have Ellen Burstyn coming back, who's the legacy actor, obviously, but then you also have Leslie Odom Jr. and Ann Dowd. So and David Gordon Green's one of those guys that does add weird, idiosyncratic moments into a lot of his movies, even the bad ones. So like, even if the film isn't great, I'm sure there will be a couple kind of like weird, funny off moments that will be memorable.
It's just weird he's rebranded himself as like a horror director now.
but he's doing that. But he's gone through phases. Like,
he had his indie kind of start, right? And then
then he did the comedy thing for a while, the studio comedy thing. Now he's doing, because originally he was going to direct Suspiria. Like, he had a version of Suspiria ready to go with the lead of Orphan to star, and then it fell through. And then he kind of went back to doing the indie thing for a little bit with Manglehorn and Joe, and then kind of was brought back into the horror thing with Halloween, right? And so I think what I would like the most from David Gordon Green, though, is an original horror movie. Like, I'd like him to do something that's not based on pre-existing IP or a character, like, or even if it was an adaptation of a previously existing horror franchise, pick something that's kind of a little bit
obscure, or like
go with Silent Night, Deadly Night 6 or 7, do something weird like that, but not do something that's so kind of been recycled and regurgitated for
so many times. I'm with you on that. So one thing I will throw out there is Gareth Edwards' True Love. I think
with David Washington.
So I actually really like Gareth Edwards. I think he did Monsters was such a, I remember seeing that at the film festival and really kind of not being blown away, but just impressed with it and its special effects, and because it was an indie film and everything. And then like his Godzilla movie I've come to really enjoy, and even though that first screening is still etched into my sweat,
you can still feel the heat of that screening. But did you hear about the rumors of that movie as well?
No,
that Rian Johnson did a lot of reshoots on Godzilla. Yeah.
Interesting.
Because Tony Gilroy did enough reshoot, like he reshot enough of Rogue One to get a directing credit, but he decided not to. Yeah.
Interesting. So it would have been either he took over directing credit or co-directed or whatever, and then probably. Yeah.
So he just got like, I think, a story or screenplay credit instead. But it's just interesting that, like, I almost feel like the studios don't have confidence.
Or like the idea of him, but when they get back footage or a first cut or something, they start to go,
this is too subtle, or like, we don't want these characters to be background material. We want them to be like the focal point. And like, this can't be, again, like you look at Godzilla and like there are certain scenes, even with Monster, like you go to Monster, which is purely him, you have those two characters, one of which is played by Scoot McNairy and the other by Whitney Able, who were a couple at that point, having this kind of like, it's basically a dramatic sort of relationship unfolding, but then in the backdrop there are these giant monsters that have made traveling almost impossible. So in order to get from one zone to another, so it just, long story short, I think it'll be interesting to see if this is truly his, like if he is able to.
It's him working with Disney again, because it's 20th Century Studios. And then like I thought it's interesting, both Greg Fraser and Oren Soffer are both the cinematographers on the movie. So 2 cinematographers. I don't know what that means, but that is interesting. I didn't hear that about Godzilla and Rian Johnson, but for a guy for his first 2 studios movies, maybe this will be a little bit smaller, and maybe that's probably a good thing. Like it's still a 20th Century Fox movie, but maybe there's less pressure on it being an original script and stuff like that too. So I'll throw it on there as a potential. I don't know if it'll make it, but I am curious. We don't know anything about it, so that might, be fighting against it. It's just a science fiction film written by Gareth Edwards with a good cast, so I don't know. A couple more I can throw out there. Oh, did I lose my list?
What else is Tobin Bell working on?
We're probably are okay. Here's the thing. Here is the big thing, Eric. There was a little film that came out last year, 2 years ago, I guess now, if we're 2023, called
Yes.
Dune Part 1. Are we going to put Dune Part 2 on our list? Because here's the thing. I'll argue for it.
Okay.
I think both of us are probably in the same camp of going, okay, the first half didn't work, but we've always said since that first half that I will judge the movie as a whole when I see part 2. But is part 2 even going to be like a complete story, or is it just going to be?
I think it will. I think it will, because Dune Messiah, which is next, is its own story.
So you think this will complete the novel of Dune, the first Dune, which will then complete the story of Dune. So we've always said that, Dune, the first movie, we gave a not so great review of because it was half a film.
It's a prologue. It's not a movie.
When we get this, are we excited for this second half? Because then we get to complete the half that we saw before. Or are we going to be spicy boys and go, not on the list?
Well, here's the thing. We both really do like Denis Villeneuve as a filmmaker outside
one of my favorites.
Outside of Dune. The selling point of this movie, of Dune 2, Dune Fast, Dune Furious, is one man, Emperor Christopher Walken.
Oh, yeah.
I'm very curious to see how that is going to play out, because Christopher Walken, while once a great actor, has become a parody of himself. So I wonder what Denny sees in Walken to play somebody who has this kind of looming control over this entire universe, and can dictate what happens to who and kind of play behind the scenes. You also have newcomers like Florence Pugh and Austin Butler and Leah Seydoux joining the cast, which are all fine additions. And then hopefully also Zendaya will have more to do.
More than just a cameo.
Yeah. And so, I love the book so much. I really do. And like David Lynch's Dune is not a great movie, but it is a fascinating production to kind of look at. And we've talked about Jodorowsky's Dune, and, the history of Dune, I think, is just as rich with curiosity as the movies. And again, like, Denny is one of those guys where it's like you're always going to give him the benefit of the doubt, because he is such a talented and passionate and incredible filmmaker. It's like, you don't want to sound hypocritical, because we both really didn't like Dune and we found it to be kind of a slog, but this almost does feel like, okay, Dune is going to really start at Dune 2, which also kind of feels
the second half of a full movie, right? Because
but that also works against it, because it's like, well, why include something that's starting at part 2 when it really should have started with the first film,
or be both together? I know it might be a 6-hour movie or something like that, which James Cameron said he wants to release a 6-hour film. Will that 9-hour Avatar 3 cut be cut down to 6 hours? Could you imagine if he convinced them to do that?
If anybody could, it would probably be him.
But then you got to think that Disney people would push back and just be like, Jim, let us release a part 1 and 2. We'll double the money. We'll release it a month apart. Just let us just call it Seed Bearer and then come up with a fucking second.
Is that what it's called?
Supposedly.
Okay.
Which is gross.
Yeah. Real gross.
Anyways, that's next year's conversation on that. So Dune, I've put it on the potential. We'll come back to it in the debate section of what's going to be on this. This is going to be like a 4-hour podcast. If you need to break to get a drink or food at any point, Eric, I can, keep talking about something.
Yeah, no, I will at some point, but I, this is just a lot of fun. Like, I really love, like, it gives. this is, like, no, we're not getting like too personal. Like, it was a very emotional Christmas for my family with my grandfather right
Yeah.
now, and it was lovely. Like, we had our Christmas on Boxing Day, and it was wonderful. But this time of year, I do seem to get a little bit more depressed than
That's
any
natural,
other
I
time
think,
of the
over the
year,
holidays, I
because
think sometimes.
yeah, and just like feeling like you have to start again and kind of
Yeah.
build yourself up and things like that. But like doing this right now is like truly so much fun. Like, it's
Oh,
like
it
one of
is.
those
It,
things
it
where,
gets
like,
you excited for the next year and what we
yeah,
do, right? This is what we love. So let's talk about the things that we're going to get pumped about. And we're probably going to miss something that's going to become our favorite film of the year, right?
yeah,
Like,
like our Top Gun Maverick, or
yeah, will Saw X be the
our
Top Gun Maverick of the Saw universe? Like,
no, get out of here with that. Get out of here.
I agree, dude. But at
Leave.
any point, this is going to be a long one. So if you need to
Oh, I'll
uh,
leave. I'll get up and go and
break and
never
get
come
something,
back.
because I probably will have to at some point as well. Again, a couple other things that I'll throw out there that I don't think are going to make the list. Disney has a movie called Wish, which is their Disney Animated Studios movie that's coming out later next year. It's supposed to, not much is known about it, but logline is Asha and a little ball of boundless energy called Star prove that when the will of one courageous human connects with the magic of the stars, wondrous things can happen. I remember reading that this is like their celebratory, like it's the 100th anniversary of Disney in 2023, and Wish, I think, is going to be like a celebration of that 100 years. So I'm curious. Like, I would love for them to get back to 2D animation at some point and do like another Princess and the Frog kind of thing. I don't think that's what we're getting with Wish, but and after Strange World, my Disney anime, I'm like, are we in that Disney animation period of I don't really care, or you have to win me back kind of thing?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm kind of in that camp rather than being excited for one. So I don't think that
Thrill
will
me,
make it.
Wish.
Yeah, like you got to win me over with that. I like the idea of celebrating 100 years of Disney, but I don't really know enough about it. We haven't seen a trailer or anything like that, but I will always be curious about a new Disney animated film. We got the new Hunger Games movie, the prequel, but I know you're not a Hunger Games guy. I'm fine with them.
I mean, I don't hate them. I just think that they're like, it's like,
I'll go
okay,
see
well,
it.
yeah.
It's fine, but I don't care. We got the Timothée Chalamet Wonka movie
I'm kind of curious about that because of the
because
director
of Paul
being of
King.
the
Yeah.
Paddington 1 and 2. So we could get weirdly two Wes Anderson movies and a Wes Anderson adjacent film in the same year. So three in all. Because, I mean, Paul King obviously, took that style of kind of twee filmmaking and really made something beautiful with those Paddington movies. So
Yeah, I would say he is the main reason I'm excited for this. I'm not a huge Chalamet guy. I've said this
Chalamet.
before.
He's good in
Maybe
Bones and All, though, I
he
think.
is. He's fine.
Loves
Fine
to
in
lick it
Dune.
up.
Like, um, but Paul King. I mean, those Paddington movies, obviously, loved, especially by film Twitter and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So
Better
I
than
think
Citizen Kane, apparently.
I am curious to see if Wonka and if Paul King can do something special or fun with Wonka. I know a movie you didn't like, but I quite liked a bit was Ghostbusters Afterlife. Do you think Firehouse is coming out next year? There's no way that movie comes out,
I
right?
mean,
Like, I
maybe
know
it
they
may. Did it
started, but
shoot,
like
or
no,
has it?
they're just starting, I
Then no,
think.
it,
Like,
it probably won't be until 2024.
yeah, like it's dated right now for I think late 2023, but I'm like, there's no way. I think we just got casting news the other day, right? Or no, director. Because it's not
Isn't it Gil
um
Keenan,
yeah.
the guy who did Monster House?
Yes.
I like Monster House.
Um
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, again, maybe this one will be better because it's kind of now like we've done the
it's
nostalgia
gotten it.
thing.
Yeah.
We've gotten it out of our system. We'll move on now and do
Which all
like,
these legacy sequels kind of have to do. They get that, that out of there, and then they kind of he did the Poltergeist remake too, though, which
ooh,
wasn't great.
But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that was taken away from him, because like that felt like because you look at some of the other stuff that he's written and directed, there's more creativity there, where it almost felt like Poltergeist was like a hired gig. But who knows? I mean, I don't want to give the guy the benefit of the doubt if
Never
there
saw
wasn't any
City of
problems.
Ember. Never saw that.
Oh, that is terrible. With Saoirse Ronan and Bill Murray. Oh my God. I remember being excited for that because of Monster House, and like watching that and just being like, God, that's terrible.
Or A Boy Called Christmas. So he's made a Christmas movie as well.
Great.
Yeah. So, it says it's coming out next year. I kind of highly doubt it. So Reitman's not directing it, and Paul Rudd, Finn Wolfhard, and Carrie Coon are confirmed to return with McKenna Grace, but there's no other casting. I don't even know if they've started shooting, so I really highly doubt that movie's coming, but it's scheduled for next year.
I mean, they might still be able to finish it, because I mean, you look at, there are certain filmmakers in the past that haven't even started shooting until the spring and have been able to pull off.
It's possible. It's definitely possible, right? And then the last one that a lot of these you've already mentioned, with Poor Things, Killers of the Flower Moon, The Killer, which were all Beau is Afraid, which were all movies from last year carried over. Saltburn I had on here, and Asteroid City, Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar. And then the two last ones I'll bring up before, Eric, if you want to go over anything else. Civil War, which is the new Alex Garland movie. Do we think that's coming next year, even though Men was last year? Is he already
he started shooting it
right
as
after
Men was coming out theatrically, so I think it
probably
will come, unless but A24 does have a pretty big slate, so they do kind of like they never give you dates until they're closer to the release. So like the next couple of A24 movies are the Jesse Eisenberg film, and then Showing Up, which is the Kelly Reichardt movie. But another movie to add to that, that's also an A24 film that might come out this year, that's finished shooting, that's in post, that has our favorite Nicolas Cage, is Dream Scenario, which I sent you those photos of him, which are kind of amazing, shot in Toronto as well, with Ari Aster as a producer on the film, and he looks amazing in the role. So awesome. This could really be like the big, Nicolas Cage is back and better than ever. He reminded people how amazing he is as an actor with
IMDb has it as 2024.
Oh yeah, no, they do. Okay. Oh no, there is one other movie,
but it's possible that it could come out. But
there's two other movies then that I'm thinking of that also could be.
I was going to put Jeff Nichols' The Bike Riders.
Yes. Please do. But there are two other films. Well, this one looks like it's still in production, so it might not be till next year. But the Ethan Coen movie, which is a Focus Features film. I'm just looking it up now. Is his lesbian road trip comedy?
Great.
It says it's in production. Yeah, because it stars Margaret Qualley. And I'm just looking at the casting now. Who's the cinematographer? Ari Wagner is the cinematographer.
There we go.
That's a bonus. I mean, just really curious to see what the Joel and Ethan Coen separation there is going to be like.
Hey, if it means we could double the Coen brothers movies, then hey, why not?
I know, but it's sad.
I know it is. I haven't
two greats separated.
I haven't loved anything that they've done probably since. I know you really liked Macbeth, but Inside Llewyn Davis, I guess. I love True Grit, but Burn After Reading's great. Serious Man's great, but No Country is so good.
They had an amazing run, going from No Country to Burn After Reading to A Serious Man to True Grit.
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
And then Llewyn Davis right after that.
Yeah,
like they stumbled a little bit with Hail Caesar, and then Buster Scruggs was it was all right as an anthology movie, but Yeah, man. Okay. Anything else you want to add, or do you want to start getting to? Have we missed anything you think, or
I'm trying to think if like there's anything like from a
other
filmmaker
filmmakers? Yeah.
or an actor that we like that it's kind of like maybe doesn't have distribution as of yet, or just something that's kind of like again a little bit off of the radar, or like who hasn't worked on in a while that
Yeah. Who
maybe.
hasn't made something in a little while, right?
Yeah, it's always difficult to predict, like even when you want to try to find, because we had Parasite on our list, but that was only because it was picked up by Neon and it was Bong Joon-ho, so it kind of had a little bit of cachet, even at its selling point. But
And what's it called? Mickey, whatever is 24, right?
yeah, so
Captain Mickey or whatever it's called.
Mickey 17.
Yeah.
um Close. So yeah, it's
Well, we
one of
can
those
kind of
things.
go back and before we put this list together, because strap in everyone, we still have to actually build the list.
Don't tell that to David Strathairn. Strap in Strathairn.
Sure. Say that 5 times fast.
No, try.
Maybe we can look at like some of our best of lists from the last couple of years and see what filmmakers probably are due for a film. Probably not the 2022 people for the most part, right?
Because I
Like
feel Netflix has a lot of stuff as well that kind of is
that
like
we won't know about
until they announce a trailer, or like obviously The Killer.
I'd put the Matthew Vaughn Apple TV movie as a potential.
Argyle, yeah.
Argyle.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll
That's
make the list, but I am excited for it. What other stuff?
are you
We already
willing to do a Lipa for it? Like a barrel roll? It sounds like a verb, doesn't it? Like Dua Lipa is like, it's almost like doing a jumping or
Dua Lipa, and you just put a little spin on it. Best of 2021. So who's due for? We got Jeff Rowe, who's due for the Michael Renata and Jeff Rowe, who did Mitchell's versus the Machines. We don't know what John Watts is up to. No, he's doing the Star Wars series, right? That's what he's working on.
yeah, Skeleton Crew.
Bo Burnham. I want that motherfucker to do another movie.
I know.
I don't think
He'll
he
be
has
the
it.
new Todd Field.
I know he always he's directing, specials and live shows, I think, and stuff like that. But
Which is cool. Like, I rather him do what he wants to do than like feel obligated to make another movie right away. I mean, Eighth Grade is amazing,
great,
and like it's one of those movies that like it truly taps into our generation, but it doesn't feel alienating to other generations watching it. Like, I think it is one of those movies that anybody can identify with. So yeah, I rather just like wait for him to kind of like figure out what he wants to do than let him make his movie when it comes. Like, it'll probably be one of those movies that kind of surprises people, where it's like, oh, he's now making another film.
Was he originally doing like the script or the music for? Was it a Sesame Street movie or some shit? Yeah, but that never ended up happening, right?
No, that fell under the radar, which I don't know like what happened there, other than like maybe the HBO thing. Maybe that was
most likely, right? So Bo's not doing anything. If you want, I don't know if you want to look at your.
Well, I know Michel Franco has a movie that he shot in New York, although I didn't love New Order.
Celine Sciamma is due for anything or no?
Well, I mean, she just had,
Petite Maman.
did Petite Maman, Portrait of a Lady on Fire,
like back to back, almost
back to back. I'm sure she has stuff that she's working on, but sometimes you also need a break.
No, and I understand that completely. I know not just because you made a movie 2 years ago, you're due for another one or whatever 3 years ago, but
yeah, give me what's next, more. Yeah, I would say that probably Jeff Nichols is like the guy this year that is the one that like
overdue.
Yeah,
which I am excited for a new Jeff Nichols movie for sure. Malignant. What's James Wan up to? James Wan doesn't have anything, right, in the pipeline. He's just chilling, producing some stuff, probably.
Just hanging out. Hold on, let me look at this bigger list.
Sean Baker not doing anything? No, not yet. Maybe it's too soon for the people who made movies in 2021.
Oh, Alexander Payne. has The
Yeah.
Holdovers, which is also a Focus Features movie, and apparently it's supposed to be really good. It's already been doing some of those. Like it was supposed to come out
Test
this
screenings.
year, but they were like, no, we got to make this like a big thing for next year. So The
Okay.
Holdovers is nobody likes teacher Paul Hunham Giamatti, not his students, not his fellow faculty, not the headmaster, who all find his pomposity and, oh man, this is so wordy, rigid rigidity, exasperating, with no family and nowhere to go over Christmas holiday in 1970. Paul remains at school. This is a long
I have the
log line.
Wikipedia one that says the disliked Deerfield Academy teacher Paul Hunnam is put in charge of supervising Agnes, a smart and rebellious student unable to journey home for Christmas. Joining them is Mary, the school's head cook. That was it on my end.
That's a
So,
better, easier, digestible log line.
so Christmas
there's,
movie.
yep. And I mean, even though I don't think either of us really like downsizing, I mean, he's done a lot of good stuff as well. So
Yeah, it says on September 11th, 2022, a special screening of the film was held for buyers. The following day, it was reported that Focus Features had acquired. I wonder if that was at TIFF, probably, like in those secret buyers screening rooms and stuff like that. Cool. All right, threw it on the potential. Trying to think of what other filmmakers are due for a movie. There's Matthew Vaughn. I already found that out. What's Lauren Hadaway
Coriata
up to?
has a movie, Monster, coming up.
He does? Yeah.
Yeah. It says Lynn Ramsey has Stone and Mattress, which is another film, but I don't think it's even in production yet.
That's what's hard about some of these smaller movies that don't get like reported on, right? Like it's like the big movies you're going to know because everyone's talking about them, or that they've gone into production, or someone's been cast, or something like that. But I don't want to keep going silent here. Best of 2020, who's overdue? We have Emerald Fennell. We have some of the directors of Soul working on Spider-Verse, or at least Peter Ramsey. Is that his name? We have Chloe Zhao. What's Chloe Zhao up to? What's she doing? Probably nothing after.
I know what you're doing, baby.
I guess after doing Nomadland and Eternals like back to back, you deserve a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
Is Max Barbacow doing anything? Director of Palm Springs. Great movie, underrated.
I think he actually is, or one of the writers is.
We got Sean Durkin on there because I had The Nest on that. Charlie Kaufman, who the hell knows what he's up to. Darius Martyr up to anything? No, not that we know of. Director of Sound of Metal. Spike Lee, not really. He's just chilling, right? After, the Five Bloods and Black Klansman.
I mean, he could also be working on a documentary because he does go back and forth between. Yeah.
I think that's what Ethan Cohen was up to too, right? Like, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, he has a movie that the Jerry Lee Lewis documentary that A24 is releasing that played at Cannes last year, so that'll probably be available sometime this year.
I was trying to see if the director of Love and Monsters was up to anything, and then I remember reading his name. He was in contention for, I think, one of the Marvel movies or something. Was it a Marvel movie or a Star Wars or something like that? I forget, but he didn't get it.
Someone's always up for something.
Okay, cool. I think we have our potential list, Eric. If anything else comes up as we're making the list, we're only 2 hours into the episode, and we're going to make the list now.
Yep.
Woo!
Well, I'm just looking up one. Oh, I wonder if Maxine is coming out this year.
Maxine?
Yeah.
Maxime or Maxine?
Like the Pearl X.
Oh, yeah, it probably is, right? You got to think that he probably shot it pretty quickly. For
It doesn't say, it just says in production.
right. Release, reception, critical response, sequel. Nothing on here. All right. Well, we won't put it for now. Okay. Whoo-wee. How many movies do we got on here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. You know what? Not that bad. I thought we'd, maybe have more because we got to cut this down to 21.
Yes.
Right. So do you want me to read you all of the films we have on here? There might be a couple more that I didn't write down that you talked about, but we can talk about that at the time.
Yeah, read them off so we can remind people listening what we've,
So on the list
here.
right now, we're putting our 23 most anticipated films of 2023. We have the Iron Claw and the Super Mario Brothers movie. In the potential category of
you might want to make a time code for this too.
I am actually right now. Thank you. 2 hours, 4 minutes. All right. We're building the list now, 2 hours and 4 minutes in. So the two films that are locked in on the list, they're not leaving, are the Iron Claw and the Super Mario Brothers movie. The pool of movies, which we can pull from anywhere, but this is the pool you just listened to us for 2 hours put together, which is Beau is Afraid, The Killer, Killer of the Flower Moon, Killers of the Flower Moon, Poor Things, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, The Zone of Interest, Bottoms, Creed 3, How Do You Live, Lily, Renfield, Love Lies Bleeding, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, Barbie, Oppenheimer, Elemental, Wildwood, Guardians Volume 3, Saltburn, Handling the Undead, May December, The Royal Hotel, I Saw the TV Glow, Strangers, Rebel Ridge, Saw X, Saw 10, True Love, Dune Part 2, Wonka, Dream Scenario, The Bike Riders, Argyle, The Holdovers, and Monster. That's our pool of films. There's about 33, did I say, on there?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
We have 21 more slots. Do you want to start doing it with movies we think are in there no matter what, or movies
automatics?
Automatics, or do you want to get rid of the ones that we don't think have a chance?
Let's do the ones. Let's start with the ones that we know are going to be on the list, that we know that both of us will approve.
Okay, so you want to toss one out, and then I'll toss one out, and then we'll either not veto, or go I don't know, or I'll go.
But we'll put it back in the pool for now, and then yeah.
Okay, you want to start with the stuff that was on last year's list and see.
Let's start. I just want to
throw a movie out there. Yeah,
Mission Impossible.
Yeah, it's on there. It's got to be on there. Come on, I think it's the one blockbuster of next year that I'm most excited for.
Tommy boy, you can't let me down.
And it's a part 1. Will it only be half of a movie? We'll see. We have 3 movies that are parts of with Across the Spider-Verse, Dune Part 2. I guess Across the Spider-Verse, they changed it from part 1, and then they gave them separate titles, which kind of makes you feel like it's a complete movie at least.
Right.
But Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, I absolutely agree on the list.
I mean, what list is complete without a title that says Dead Reckoning?
Yeah, absolutely. Dead Reckoning Part 1, great title. Do you think there are any more absolute locks? I would say Across the Spider-Verse is also a lock.
Yeah, in the animation department, I would say that it is probably one of the most anticipated films. The only negative I have is it going to live up to that first movie?
It's a good point. But
I do think it should be on the list.
I think because the first movie is so good, is why it would make this list. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Like I said, rewatch the first film. It's incredible. I think out of all of the animated films next year, I put the Super Mario Brothers movie on there, but I think I'm most excited for Across the Spider-Verse.
But even with Dead Reckoning, like it's like, is Dead Reckoning going to live up to what Fallout is? You know, like
I
that
say that with
is.
every Mission Impossible movie, though, and they get better,
Yeah.
Eric. Every time I go, how can it be better than Ghost Protocol? And then you're like, oh, wait, it can be better than Ghost Protocol. And
Like that
then
bathroom scene, man. Like how are they going to
I,
top that?
I don't know. I'm waiting for the moment I go, yeah, that wasn't as good as the last one.
Yeah.
But I think it's the one franchise that has objectively gotten better every film. Like, or maybe, 2 was a little, you stumbled with 2. 3's still better than 2, even though 3's not better than 1. But then you go 4, 5, 6, they get better, I think, each
Yeah.
movie. And that's incredible. So I'd say Spider-Verse, Mission Impossible, locks on the list. Anything else you want to throw out as a lock?
I think Scorsese has to be on there.
Yeah, you're right. Killers of the Flower. Killers, right? Plural?
Yes.
Or is it killer?
Killers.
Killers of the Flower Moon is a lock on the list. I agree.
And I also do think that David Fincher should be on
I
there
was just
too.
gonna say that.
Put
I'm
the Killers on there. All
I
the
was
killers.
I forget who was talking about David Fincher the other day, but someone posted his filmography in like a screenshot, and I was like, come on. Like, I don't think anyone, there's lots, but when I see David Fincher's filmography, and I'm like, the dude just kind of doesn't miss, really. Like, even
Well,
Girl
a
with
lot
the
of people
Dragon
didn't like
Tattoo.
Mank though.
Yeah, sure. I was one of those people. Let's say pre-Mank, pre-Netflix era, okay?
Pre-Mank.
But like, come on. If you go
Are you afraid
from
of the Mank?
say what you want about, even Fight Club not dating very well and stuff like that, but Seven, The Game, Fight Club, Panic Room, Zodiac, Benjamin Button, Social Network, Dragon Tattoo, Gone Girl, Mank, like there's only a few movies in there from personal preferences that you might not really, even Girl with the Dragon Tattoo that I remember not loving on first watch. I've had an itch to go back and rewatch it. And even some people, I know you're not the biggest Benjamin Button fan and stuff like that, but like I still that list gets Fincher on the most anticipated list. Come on.
Yeah, and he's working with Fassbender, and it's the adaptation of the graphic novel is by Andrew Kevin Walker, who wrote Seven. So.
Oh, there you go. That's cool. Yeah, come on, about an assassin and stuff like that. Like I'm all in on this. I'm all in.
Tilda Swinton's in there. Come on.
T Swills. Okay. Any more that get an automatic on the list? I'd say I think you got to pick Barbie or Oppenheimer for an automatic on the list.
Barbie, I think, is automatic.
Barbie.
I mean, we talked about it so much that I think, like, if we didn't put it on the list, we would be fools. Fools, man, fools.
All right, Barbie is automatically on the list with number 7, which this could change. I'm saying automatically on the list. We might get to a point where, like, oh, fuck, we got to make room for this other thing. I'm going to say we're probably not putting Creed 3 on this list.
Probably not, no.
Does Oppenheimer go on? I'm going to leave it till later.
Laterheimer?
Guardians Volume 3, I'm even hesitant. I think Phase 4 of the MCU, I'm in that spot. I've really enjoyed everything. I'm obviously get super psyched about it all. I'm excited to see if Quantumania actually sets up Kang as like the Thanos level kind of threat that you hope he is. But I'm in that Age of Ultron phase of the MCU right now where
you're a little bit burnt out and you need something to build you back up.
A little bit. I need that thing that's really going to go. And I think Spider-Man being that big event movie was that, but it made me excited for that movie, not necessarily for the MCU as a whole, if that made sense, right? Like I love No Way Home. I think what they did with they owe a lot to Spider-Verse, which I think is even better than No Way Home. But it's still, I think that movie rocks and is easily the best Phase 4 thing, but it didn't make me go, shit, I can't wait for the rest of the MCU or whatever. It just made me go, interesting. How are they going to do this? It made me excited for more Spider-Man. I guess that makes sense. But
yeah.
So I don't know about Guardians. I'm going to leave it for now and not say it gets an automatic bid. Anything else you think automatically makes it on?
What do we have?
We
Remind
have
me.
Beau is Afraid, I think is gonna, it carries over.
Yeah, it's
Don't you
got to. I
think?
think.
Like,
Yeah. I
I
mean, after Ari Aster has made Hereditary and Midsommar, I mean, like, kind of does.
it was on last year's list. I think we both loved both, Hereditary and Midsommar. Um, okay, so the two movies that were on last year's list, Poor Things and Zone of Interest.
I would agree with both. I think Jonathan Glazer's another one of those guys that hasn't made anything for a while with Under the
Yeah,
Skin, and hearing that the movie potentially could be released in 3 separate versions is also kind of intriguing as well. Even if that isn't true, I still think like he's one of those guys. It's like Sexy Beast, Birth, Under the Skin, prolific music video director, commercial director. Um, a story that is very challenging. Being about the Holocaust and looking at complicity and sort of the idea of how people are not just bystanders in a situation, is going to be something that is like, if it plays, it could play, it can, but it could also be a festival film, and it might be that movie that also doesn't come out until 2024, because I know he takes a long time to work on his films, especially in post and finding his movies. So, um, you know, I could see that being the argument against it, but I think he is one of those specialty filmmakers that when he has a movie come out, you need to see it. So I would say with both Yorgos and Jonathan Glazer's films, they should be on those lists, on the 2023 list.
I agree. I put Zone of Interest on the list. You want to come back to Poor Things?
I think we should put more things on there. I think
Yeah.
And is the one we should maybe leave off, not because we're not interested in it. It's just because we don't know if it's going to be finished. And also, I've heard that And is more of an anthology movie, and
Interesting.
anthology films we've talked about before on this show, where it's always kind of a hit or miss thing. And I think that's what even hurts something like Asteroid City a little bit, because it's like, well, Wes Anderson's last movie was kind of an anthology movie, and even though I don't think Asteroid City is, I think it's just an ensemble piece with an amazing cast. It's almost like the last movie of his kind of did hurt him a little bit,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you there. Okay. Both of those made the list. What else we got? So we got Bottoms, Creed 3, How Do You Live, Renfield, Love Lies Bleeding, Oppenheimer, Elemental, Wildwood, Guardians 3, Saltburn, Handling the Undead, May December, The Royal Hotel, I Saw the TV Glow, Strangers, Rebel Ridge, Saw 10, True Love, Dune Part 2, Wonka, Dream Scenario, The Bike Riders, Argyle, The Holdovers, and Monster.
Okay, what is something you want to put on the list?
I'm trying to think of what we both vibe with as well, because those are like the easiest things that, and I think
Yeah.
most of these we both vibe with. I'd say The Bike Riders, the Jeff Nichols movie. I think we both really like Jeff Nichols, and I think he's a guy, like we just mentioned, is due for something.
Yeah, Tom Hardy's not playing Venom. Thank God.
So I'd say that. Anything for on your end?
There's a few things. I think
Saltburn probably.
Yeah.
Throw that on there,
Yeah.
because I'd say that, like,
I think because of Promising Young Woman being such a phenomenon, that it's like the follow-up, even if it isn't as good, like it's still worth seeing, like, oh, what she's going to do next. And also, like, it works well because she's also in Barbie, and Margot Robbie is a producer on Saltburn and Promising Young Woman, so it kind of like works, like, narratively connecting that as well. I think the Miyazaki
something
movie,
I didn't bring up, Indiana
what?
Jones. We
Wow.
both just skipped over it.
I know, and I love Indiana Jones, and like after watching that trailer, I'm kind of like, I'm almost indifferent on it.
Okay. You know me, I'm not the Indiana Jones guy. I just thought I should probably bring it up for you, because I know you are.
Yeah. But that trailer,
I love James Mangold too. Like, I think he did such a good job with Logan. And he's done other stuff that's good too. But like, you think he I don't know, man. I just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought that trailer's fine.
Yeah, the Dial of Destiny. I keep thinking of that Jim Belushi movie called Mr. Destiny, and like literally the posters just of I don't know if you want to look this up now. The posters just literally of Jim Belushi just standing on a street with a pink shirt on and jeans, going like this, and you're just like, that is the laziest
Oh yeah, I
poster
see
I
that
have
now.
ever
Yeah,
seen in my entire life.
Michael
Like,
Caine. Are you still there?
yeah, yeah,
Oh yeah, I thought you bowed out for a sec.
nope.
Okay, so no Indiana Jones. We both kind of are indifferent on that one. Which I think is a little bit of a spicy take when it comes to the big blockbusters.
Spice Boys.
So another thing we have to think of, which we think of every year when we build this list off air, is like we like to kind of have representation in multiple different areas. I don't mean that in the, you know what I mean by that. Like
Yeah,
sometimes it comes to animated films and action movies and indie films and things like that, not necessarily just representation when it comes to like race and sex and stuff like that of the people involved in the movies as well. But like you want to make sure it's a well-rounded list overall and all of those things, and not just be so focused on one thing. And I think right now we're doing a good job. Here's the list so far. We're about halfway through. We have the Iron Claw, the Super Mario Brothers movie, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Killers of the Flower Moon, The Killer, Barbie, Beau is Afraid, Beau is Afraid, The Zone of Interest, Poor Things, The Bike Riders, and Saltburn. I think that's a pretty like good
solid
list
list.
now.
Yeah.
Where do you want to go from here? We can stay with the big stuff. We can go over
I
some
think
smaller
Miyazaki
stuff.
needs
Yeah.
to be on there because I do feel like, again, he's one of those guys that like this could be his last film. I mean, he
Yeah.
kind of was
How
retired
long
in
ago was Wind Rises?
2014,
Yeah.
2013. So
All right. It's on the list. Miyazaki makes it.
yeah.
Congratulations, sir. I know you're listening.
Yeah, he's our number one fan next to Alex Reno. Yeah, I mean, like
I loved Shiva Baby enough that I would put Bottoms on this
Bottoms. Yeah,
list.
we should put Bottoms has got to be on the list.
Because like I loved Shiva Baby. It was in my like top
Yeah,
4 of
and
the year.
and Bottoms does sound like it could be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Okay, so we got Bottoms on the list.
Bottoms up.
Creed 3 and Renfield, like again, I'm excited for both. I don't know if they need to be on this list. We'll see. We still have Oppenheimer on the table. We have Love Lies Bleeding, Elemental, Wildwood, Guardians, Handling the Undead, May December, The Royal Hotel, I Saw the TV Glow, Strangers, Rebel Ridge, Saw 10, True Love, Dune 2, Wonka. Let's start picking apart the big stuff and just saying yes or no, because we
Right.
got about half the list. Creed 3, Gut Instinct, yes or no?
No.
No. I'm with you. Renfield, I think I'm also leaning towards probably no. I don't know how you
Yeah,
feel.
it's also kind of that recency bias thing as well because it is coming out earlier in the year, and it's not that like we're not looking forward to it, but
I'm
it's
surprised
almost
we
like
haven't seen anything from it, really. Maybe
no.
that would sway us one way or another, but
Yeah.
like we've seen those set photos and things like that. I like the title.
Maybe with
treatment,
Megan,
but,
maybe
like,
there'll be a trailer next
yeah,
week
you're making a
because it's
good
a
point.
Universal movie, right? So,
But I'm leaning towards no.
yeah.
Oppenheimer. Do we make the decision now? Do we leave Christopher Nolan off the list?
We
And
I think we leave him hanging for now. We leave him in suspense. Maybe that'll be like the last thing that we go back to because I'm leaning towards a yes, but the caveat I do like what you're saying where we make an example of this. We make our own explosives,
Where they go,
and
wow, you
not
left Chris Nolan off your most anticipated. And you go, yeah, we did. That's how much Tenet burned us.
yeah, exactly.
Dune Part 2.
As of now,
Leave it off. Yeah.
leave it off.
Wonka.
Wonka's the one where I'm kind of like I'm torn.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, it's the Paul King factor of this thing where
Yeah.
like it could be something really special.
Or it could be him taking a paycheck.
Yeah. or it could be a great movie around an actor that maybe wasn't the right choice for casting of Willy Wonka. Because I mean, Gene Wilder is just like
I think that's the whole thing. Is like, do we need another Willy Wonka movie and a Willy Wonka origin story?
Yeah, sexy
No,
Wonka.
we don't. That's the thing. But I mean, I'm ready for Paul King to win me over and prove me wrong. But
yeah, because Paddington was kind of like that, right? Like Paddington, you didn't really have
any expectations
those expectations, right? Maybe Wonka will be this year's Top Gun Maverick, you know?
Imagine. It could be.
I know it's Timothée Chalamet's favorite film of this year is Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah, he did say that. Yeah. Out of the big stuff, Argyle. I love Matthew Vaughn. I'm excited for it. Henry Cavill. Like, it sounds like a fun spy movie, but I don't know if it makes this list.
Yeah, I think it's one of those movies that will be like, if we enjoy it or if like we find something, it'll be kind of more of a surprise film than anything else. You know, it's like, oh, that was better than expected, you know, or that was more enjoyable.
And then Guardians 3, is this the first year? I'm going back to it. First year in a long time, I wouldn't put a Marvel movie on my most anticipated. Has Phase 4 burned me?
If you're going to put a Marvel movie on the list, I would say Guardians is the one because it does look good. It is an interesting...
We both like the first two.
It's an interesting moment in James Gunn's career. You know, it's like there's a lot going on with this movie in terms of concluding this version of the Guardians, right? So
I will say though, I think I'm one of the people that upon rewatches, maybe this will change during a more recent rewatch when I haven't watched them as much, but I don't love the first two Guardians as much as other people do. Like, interesting. I like, if you look at my Marvel ranking, I probably have them lower than most people do. Like, I have them right kind of in the middle of the pack. And I think that's maybe just from overwatching them. Like,
yeah, I think that like the first Guardians in particular became one of those movies where like, as soon as it became popular, it was a movie that, you know, played all the time during the holidays, during like, it was the ultimate kind of default setting on your TV. Like,
it's an easy watch for sure, right?
Yeah,
and they're pretty and funny and entertaining.
I really love them a lot. I think that they're some of my favorite of the Marvel movies, but it's also interesting that like the generation that seems to love them the most are the baby boomer generation, like, and you know, the generation after that, like our parents' generation in particular. Like my dad, who hates Marvel movies, loves the Guardian films.
Do you think it's
like
the music or because they have that
I think it's a little
classic feel of those old kind of, I don't know, like not Flash Gordon kind of things, but like
Flash Gordon, Star Trek, Star Wars, and as you mentioned, you know, the soundtracks I think are a big part of it as well in terms of that selling point. So
like I have them at 17 and 19 in my Marvel, which is right in the middle, which I think would be lower than a lot of people.
I mean, I was disappointed. Like, I still liked Guardians 2, but I was disappointed that like Kurt Russell wasn't better utilized in the film and things like that. But I mean, this one again, like, you know, we've talked about it before. Like, if there's a lot of death in this movie, it's like I'm kind of sick and tired of blockbusters always using death as a way out for a character instead of just saying like, hey, you know what, they went on to like just retire or do something else.
Maybe they'll come back in 20 years, maybe they won't. Just leave them alone.
Like, yeah, you don't have to kill somebody off just to finalize it or make.
And I think that's misdirection. I really do. Like, I think maybe one person dies or one character dies, but like
Sean Gunn,
yeah, the one we all care about. I'm gonna say for now it's on the list because I don't think we can not put a Marvel movie. If Matt Rohrbeck is involved in the list, it's got to have an MCU movie.
Could you imagine if Tobin Bell was in a Marvel movie?
Could happen. Never say never. Every actor shows up eventually. Okay, we're at 15, so we still have lots of spots left. We got 7 slots left. So out of those smaller movies, or those kind of some of them aren't smaller movies per se, but they're kind of either art house or indie movies, anything on that group that you really want to push for?
Yeah, I would say that I have two of them, and they're the becoming an A24 fanboy. I saw the TV Like Glow, which
Okay.
does sound really intriguing, and I again really loved. We're all going to the World's Fair, which is like literally almost this single location drama about this young girl who kind of gets sucked into an online kind of mythology, like what's the like Slender Man, like
Okay.
creepy pasta kind of stuff,
Sure.
but it's more about loneliness and sort of like connecting with other people that kind of feel the same way. And the director has talked about it very openly, that it is kind of a metaphor for their transitioning, in being transgender. So I think like I'm very curious to see what this director is going to do with something that also might like focus on a period of time that we might be more familiar with, in that there are certain shows that you watch when you are growing up that are kind of cult shows that you remember. It's like, oh, do you remember Erie, Indiana? Or do you remember, this show or that show that was
Are You
that
Afraid of the
weird?
Dark?
Yeah, even that in a way. I mean, even though that was still
Yeah. More
more well
mainstream. Yeah,
known, but
yeah.
I mean, it still kind of was like Canadian first, and then Nickelodeon picked it up for the US. But it just kind of feels interesting, and I don't know if it's going to work or not. But I mean, like, it's such an odd
I like
pitch,
that
and
because
like,
it's a movie that most people probably haven't thought about of coming out next year,
yeah,
kind of thing. So I think that's an
and Fred
interesting choice.
Durst.
Yeah, why not? It's hilarious. No, the concept won me over. I'm all in. So I
And
like
then
that.
Love Lies Bleeding. I don't know. Like, I think Saint Maud is not a perfect movie by any means, but it's one of those films where it's like I could see Rose Glass kind of becoming like with a bigger name with each movie. And if she's able to get people like Ed Harris and Kristen Stewart and Jenna Malone, on, and Dave Franco on board to make this weird movie about bodybuilders, um, I think it's definitely worth considering, because I think it's going to be one of those movies that a lot of people will be curious about, partly because of Stewart being in it, but also it being this follow up from it, like what's the tone going to be? Like, that's the other thing. Like, is it going to be melodramatic? Is it going to be a thriller? Is there going to be horror elements? In terms of body modification, in terms of changing your shape and size to fit an industry standard, and the world of bodybuilding. I think there is another bodybuilding movie though that is playing at Sundance with Jonathan Majors. I think it's called Magazine Dreams. So bodybuilding is going to be hot in 2023.
I love it. It's on the list. I'm here for it. Okay, cool. So now we are at 18. This
You
list
know
is
what?
going to
We
be
got to throw
interesting.
Saw on there. We got to commit.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you. We're putting it on the list. Saw X. I just want that to be on this same list as some of these other movies.
as Scorsese and Jonathan Glazer and
Yeah. Yeah. Saw X is on the list, baby. If we put a Saw movie, but not Nolan or
oh
Dune
god,
Part 2.
that is
uh,
saying something. Like, those are fighting words right there.
um, I think is the Jeremy Saulnier movie Rebel Ridge? Is that his? Or no,
Yeah,
which one
and
is
it's a
his?
yeah, Rebel Ridge.
I'd be open to that.
Sure.
I've loved his other stuff. Okay, we're getting there. 20 or 19. Anything
So what do
else
we
on
have
your end?
left that's not on the list yet?
All right, we've eliminated Renfield. I think we've eliminated Love Lies Bleeding is on the list now. Elemental. Do we put a Pixar movie on the list? We
I
usually
think we have
we have
enough
enough
animation on
animated, right?
there.
And I
Yeah.
think because we have the Miyazaki movie, which maybe takes the Pixar slot, kind of like a Ghibli movie, kind of very different, obviously, but because we already have Across the Spider Verse and How Do You Live? Do we have a third
Lily,
one?
how will you live?
No, those are the two. Oh, and Super Mario Brothers. So like
Yeah.
there's 3 animated movies. I think I'm with you where I'm all for an original Pixar movie. Very excited for Elemental. I liked that little bit that we saw. Reminds me of Inside Out or,
But
you
also
know,
it kind of feels like
um,
something we've seen before from Pixar, even though
yeah,
it is an original piece. It does kind of feel like we are getting back to, I mean, we're supposed to get Inside Out 2 at some point as well, right?
yeah.
So, you know.
I'd say Wildwood for the same reasons gets
Yeah, Wildwood, it's like Wildwood's one of those things where it's like I'm excited for it because I like Leica. Leica's done a lot of really good stuff. But it's like I don't know too much about it other than just the log line and the cast. And even like Missing Link was solid, but it wasn't as good as Kubo and the Two Strings or Coraline and things like that. So again, it's kind of like it's up in the air where like when you hear oh Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio is coming out, you need to see it first before you can really like, you know, like if it makes a best of list at the end of the year, like it, you know, I'm not going to hold it against us that we didn't put it on, you know, the list because it still is kind of like a we'll see, you know, Chili T, love the guy, but you know,
yeah. No, I agree. I agree with all of that. Okay, so Wildwood gets deleted. We put Guardians on the list, so that goes. We're starting to weed this down. I saw the TV Glow we put on there. Um, Wonka we haven't decided on yet. Okay, Argyle we said probably not, even though I'm excited. Okay, so we have how many slots left? 4 slots left. 20, 21, 22, 23. And here are the movies that are left: Oppenheimer, Handling the Undead, May December, The Royal Hotel, Strangers, True Love, Dune Part 2, Wonka, Dream Scenario, The Holdovers, and Monster.
here's another we can cut. I think we should cut Dream Scenario because it probably will be a 2024 release.
Okay.
So I think like even if it does come out this year, like it does say on IMDb 2024. So, you know, we're hedging our bets there.
Yeah, we're going by that date. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm with you there. Anything else you feel strong about, one way or another?
I am like I really love Handling the Undead.
Okay.
And it's a Neon release. It's going to be those 2 stars from, you know, The Worst Person in the World. I don't know much about the director. So that's always kind of like the wild card there where it's like you're basing it more on the property than the filmmaking itself. But if Neon picked it up, you know, they must believe in it. And it's not just simply because, you know, they released The Worst Person in the World. So
Yep. I'm reading about it now. It's based on a book, right?
yeah, from the writer of the author of the Last of Us, Let the Right One In.
Right. Sounds creepy. Okay, potentially.
Yeah.
I mean, we got 4 slots left, so I mean, if you want it, it's on the list. You give me the word.
Do I want it? Do I Wonka it?
So here's the
Yeah,
thing. Yeah.
let's throw it. That'll be my kind of like wild card pick.
All right. Is this going to be one of them that Matt misses and then doesn't see? Kidding. I'll try to see all of these.
Well, you saw The Worst Person in the World, right?
Which I liked quite a bit. I think I liked it even more than you did.
Yeah, and you saw Matt Reeves's Let Me In.
I did. I never saw the originals, but I love his Let Me In. I've been actually itching to rewatch that movie. Wanted to rewatch it before the Batman, but I never got around
Little
to it.
Batman.
Okay, we have our last 3 picks. So here's the thing: we're at a point. So we have the big boys here, which are Oppenheimer, Dune Part 2, and Wonka. I will put Wonka with the big boys. And then we have the smaller movies with May December, The Royal Hotel, Strangers, True Love, The Holdovers, Monster. We have 3 spots left.
Well, we should probably do one studio movie at least. One indie film.
Smaller movie, and then the last spot we figure out.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's decide the big one. Does it go to Oppenheimer, Dune Part 2, or Wonka? I think we're
I think it
leaning in
should
the
either
same
go to
spot.
Wonka or Oppenheimer. One of the two. Wonkenheimer?
Willy Wonka created
The atomic bomb?
that's the historical fiction that Nolan's putting into the movie. I'm if you said, Matt, gun to your head right now, which movie do you want to see, Oppenheimer or Wonka? I think my gut says Oppenheimer, but
Okay.
what do you think? I want your.
I think
If I say,
Oppenheimer...
Eric, right now, what do you want to watch?
Oppenheimer.
Yeah, see, that's what I think.
But part of it as well is just like I've seen some footage now of Oppenheimer. If
That's
you had
true.
asked me
If
without
you,
seeing the footage, I might have been maybe Wonka, because again, like I'm basing it on Paul King, not necessarily Timothée. So but again, like it's one of those things again where Wonka could end up being Top Gun Maverick in a way. So
I know.
but
I
I think of those three, if I had to pick one right now, it would be Oppenheimer.
I think so too. Part of me wanted to be spicy boys, but I feel like our guts are telling us we're still those college age film bros at heart that just want a new Nolan movie.
We're not trolling Nolan as of yet, right?
So I definitely what is my mom asking? Sorry, one sec.
She's asking if you put any Marvel movies on the list. Yes. Guardians 3.
Okay, I'm with you on that. I'm with you. Sorry, she's trying to get into our Amazon Prime account. So that's the update.
What is she gonna watch?
Hopefully Invincible. And then okay, so Oppenheimer on the list. So now out of those smaller movies of May, December, The Royal Hotel, Strangers, True Love, The Holdovers, and Monster, what would you choose, or what do you think?
That is a very good question. It's tough because it's like I really like Todd Haynes as a filmmaker. I don't know if May December is going to be finished in time. I don't know how big of a production that is. It's also the first time he's not working with Ed Lachman. The Royal Hotel, I think, is done. And that reteaming of Kitty Green and Julia Garner could be the beginning of, a Scorsese De Niro kind of thing. It again, like it seems like it's going to be dealing with a lot of, issues that will get under your skin, but do it in a way that's not, upfront about it. It's very subtle and kind of, again, like you have to read between the lines, which is always great. Whew.
I'm leaning towards you.
I know, but what do you think of those movies? Like, what are you thinking? Other than Arby's,
I don't know. Like, what do you think? I know I'm pushing it back on you that I would vibe with the most. Todd Haynes, like, I haven't even seen Carol, which is blasphemous to some people. I know. I liked Wonderstruck a lot. Dark Waters is fine. Did I like Dark Waters? I can't remember it.
okay. Mark Ruffalo is the lawyer that goes against the DuPont family.
And then some of his early stuff I haven't
Safe
seen.
is great. Like him working with Julianne Moore again in a lead role, I think is kind of cool. And working with Natalie Portman for the first time.
Let me look through. We can keep talking through each one. And then you have the Royal Hotel, which is I'm just like looking all of these up and trying to this isn't what I'm looking for. What's the Royal Hotel again, Eric? Sorry.
Kitty Green, the director of The Assistant, where
Right.
two friends travel to a hotel where they have to deal with horrible working environments and things like that. So,
and Strangers is
high concept sci-fi idea that like a writer or someone gets drawn back into
this
his
is
old
the
life.
Andrew Scott, Paul Mescal, Claire Foy, Jamie Bell movie.
Yeah,
Is this it? Okay.
yeah.
Loose adaptation of the novel Strangers, second film adaptation of the novel after the 1988 Japanese film The Discarnates. Interesting. Adam, a screenwriter living in London, discovers in his childhood home his long dead parents looking the same as they did 30 years ago after an encounter with his neighbor, Harry. That definitely sounds cool. Sounds interesting. Andrew Hay is the director.
Yeah, he directed Lean on Pete,
Yeah.
also Looking, 45 Years, Weekend.
Okay. And then we have True Love, which please jump in while I'm looking if you want to talk about these movies. I forget.
Which is Gareth Edwards, right?
Oh, yeah. The Gareth Edwards movie we don't really know much about. It's hard to put a movie. You made good points about, his track record since Monsters being kind of like, I think Godzilla and Rogue One are good films, but did he need help on both of those? Possibly. Or did he need help, or did the studio need it to be a movie that they wanted? So how much of it is really him? That's a good point. And then the Holdovers is
Alexander Payne.
Mm-hmm. That sounded good. I like Alexander Payne quite a bit. Although Downsizing, it's been a while. It's going to be 6 years since that movie. But I love Nebraska and The Descendants, and I now pronounce you Chuck and Larry, which I forgot he wrote or co-wrote. Sideways is great. I forgot he did.
Maybe we do The Holdovers then. Maybe The Holdovers is
the one
I
do like Alexander Payne quite a bit, and then Monster is
Coriata. I don't think anything's known on it yet.
Right.
I don't know.
So yeah, maybe we go with Alexander Payne. I like Nebraska, and I know some people don't like The Descendants, but I really liked it when it came out. Haven't seen it since then, but maybe this is a good time to rewatch it. Downsizing was just not good though.
No, but this sounds almost like he's going back to
what he's good
something
at. All right, I think. Oh wait, how many we have? Oh, we have that final spot. I'm like, how do we have one more spot? And then the Holdovers. All right, 2 hours 46 minutes. We'll probably wrap this up around the 3-hour mark. Oh boy, that's a long podcast. We haven't done one of these in a while, and the first one of the year, of course, is a 3-hour one. So now we decide.
Do you want to mark this with a time code?
No, because they get a time code just for us making the list. The final movie doesn't get its own special shout out. Okay.
Well, I was thinking like at the end of this, like when we do
I will do one for when I just read the list out. Which you'll also be able to get as a Letterboxd list over on Untitled_movies over on Letterboxd, but I'll plug all that shit at the end. All right, Eric, one last film. Do we go off the board? Is there something we forgot about? Do we go with Wonka? Do we go, you know what? We are excited for Dune Part 2. Do we go, one of these smaller movies I do really want to have on the list? I can read you what we have, and if you like, we might need to make adjustments too, right? Like we might go, this is skewing this way too much, skewing that way too much, or if we like the list. So how about I read the list as it is right now?
Sure.
We'll see if we like how it kind of feels and then decide. So
how does it feel, baby?
So here's 22 out of the 23 most anticipated films of 2023. The Iron Claw, the Super Mario Brothers movie, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Killers of the Flower Moon, The Killer, Barbie, Beau is Afraid, The Zone of Interest, Poor Things, The Bike Riders, Saltburn, How Do You Live, Bottoms, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, I Saw the TV Glow, Love Lies Bleeding, Saw 10, Rebel Ridge, Handling the Undead, Oppenheimer, and The Holdovers. I think it's a cool list so far. I mean,
I think it's a pretty good list.
I think we have a good mix of blockbuster, award stuff, awards baity kind of stuff, but still in that kind of auteur filmmaker focused movie that we kind of are attracted to. We, I think, have some stuff some people probably haven't heard of, some big stuff obviously people have heard of. I like the mix of movies here. I think even more than our other years, we have some kind of deep cuts in there that you brought to the table that are deep cuts right now. I think
I'm a deep boy.
I think Eric likes to go deep. You heard it here first.
Who doesn't?
I think it's a good mix of stuff. I think once people understand what the movies are, they'll go, oh, I do like that director, or I've heard of those movies those people have done or whatever. So much like I did in this conversation. So in that last pick, I'm going to go open up 2023 in film on Wikipedia.
The only thing that I will say that like and it's harder to pick something because you really don't know until it plays at a festival or it gets announced through like someone picking it up are documentaries. I think documentaries are the tougher ones to kind of anticipate certain things because you don't know when they're also going to get a release or when they're shooting or how long they're shooting for.
Like there's no like All the Beauty and the Bloodshed, a movie that we both really loved on the doc side of things. We wouldn't have put on it. We wouldn't have. We just didn't think of putting it on our list last year.
No, because we didn't know that it was coming out and we didn't know that it was even on anyone's radar, you know, so there will probably be something that is like that, you know, whether it be at Hot Docs or Sundance or, you know, Toronto this year. So it's
Eric,
just one of those things.
At the time this podcast comes out, we're only 2 days away or whatever, but Megan can still go on the list. So
it might have to. We might have to make that final statement.
You know, I'm going through. I thought about Missing because I really did like searching quite a bit, but not going to make the list.
It's also January.
I know most of the January stuff I'm not even thinking about. So
Plane.
I'm excited for Plane. That's our first press screening of the year. I'm psyched. I didn't even bring up things like Aquaman, The Color Purple, Trolls 3, Paw Patrol. I know I like the first one, so Paw Patrol the Mighty Movie is coming.
My nephew is also digging Paw Patrols and he's won.
That Paw Patrol movie, not that bad. Pretty good.
It's fine. It's very digestible. And
Craven the Hunter we forgot about by J.C. Chandor. Next Goal Wins. We didn't really talk about the Taika Waititi movie, but I think we both kind of
are burnt out on
soured, but burnt out is a good way of putting it. Can't believe I haven't brought up The Expendables 4 by
that is tempting.
Auteur Scott Waugh.
Well, I mean, if it's not Stallone, you know,
director of Active Valor, that horrible garbage piece of shit, and Need for Speed. And he directed Six Below, Miracle on the Mountain. Oh boy. The Nun.
Is Father Stu 2 coming out?
The Nun 2, The Equalizer 3. I can't believe they're making a third one. I don't even think I saw the second one.
Pedro's in that one. Pedro Pascal.
Is he?
Yeah.
Cool. They Listen. It's a Chris Weitz movie. Untitled, Please Don't Destroy film. What the fuck is that? It's a comedy group, I guess. Blue Beetle. Luca Guadagnino's Challengers. We never brought up.
Oh, yeah, that might be one to consider.
See,
because I mean, like, who knows what will be this year's Barbarian? Even,
Neil Blomkamp's Gran Turismo. It's the year of the video game adaptation. I'm telling you, like, who knows?
What will be the plot? I think it's a meta thing. I mean,
there's a guy who hasn't made a movie in a while that you'd think you'd be excited for his next thing.
Excuse me, Demonic.
Did he make
that a couple of years? Yeah. The
Did I just
virtual
not see
possession
it?
movie. Yeah.
Fair. I didn't know that he did.
Yeah.
I had
It's
no idea
terrible.
it even came out, bro. That's telling you what I had no. You saw it?
Yeah.
I had no idea it even came out. Oh, I see why I didn't know. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's a guy like I after District 9 and even Elysium to an extent, which isn't a great movie, but like still interesting.
Chappie killed his career.
Yeah, Chappie kind of fucked everything
I am
up.
Chappie.
But I'm a big I haven't played more of the recent ones, but my dad really loves the Gran Turismo games, and I like
PlayStation 2 had part 3. Like it was almost like
Mhm.
that's the one you get with every.
Oh yeah, every new console you get the Gran Turismo, so you can show off the graphics and everything, right?
Yeah. It's a demo disc.
I like the idea of it's not necessarily adapting the game, but it has like a meta plot where it's about that story about a kid who played Gran Turismo and learned how to become a race car driver and then actually started professionally racing cars because he learned in Gran Turismo. So I like that of like it's a game that is impossible to adapt because it's just a car racing game.
Yeah, Need for Speed.
Yeah, but Need for Speed actually has plots in the games, right? Where Gran Turismo is just a pretty car racing game. So like I think it's kind of an interesting concept, and the cast is interesting. You got David Harbour, Orlando Bloom, Jaimin Hansu. We also have the Haunted Mansion movie, Meg 2, The Trench, the Ben Wheatley movie, which I think we're both interested in because Ben Wheatley's directing it. I'm just going through other movies quickly. New Insidious films coming, and Patrick Wilson is directing it. Untitled Adele. Oh, I thought they just said Untitled Adele movie, and then it's Adele Lim movie, which is just the director's name. Okay. Asteroid City. Oh, we didn't put Asteroid City on the list, eh? Are we?
No, we didn't.
Huh.
So that's another contender to consider.
I can't believe we just forgot Asteroid City for some reason. Asteroid.
Because I think it's partly because of French Dispatch kind of being a little bit underwhelming.
Yeah, that's probably true. That is probably true.
But we have 2 Wes Anderson movies potentially being released this year.
So just one of them make the list. Can't believe we forgot about The Flash, Eric. That should be number 1 on our most anticipated. I can't believe
before all of this, I
know.
would have because of the Michael Keaton stuff, but now,
right? Yeah, you can't. Like it just seems like a pointless endeavor. Going through, what else do we got? We got About My Father. Don't care about Little Mermaid. We skipped over a lot. Like all the Disney live action remakes at this point is just like I'll watch it, but you got to prove me wrong.
Yeah. Waiting for Oliver and Company, the live action remake.
Book Club 2, the next chapter. The BCU is in full force.
80 for Brady.
80 for Brady. Have you watched that trailer yet?
I have.
It's so funny.
It's terrible.
It's awful. Nevis was so excited. She watched it and she's like, Matt, it comes out when we're in Florida. Let's go take your whole family to see it.
Oh my God. That is a perfect Florida movie.
Yeah. Even though it's about the New England Patriots, but Tom Brady does play for a Florida team now. But like, it does
also
seem like the
conservative,
perfect,
right? So
yeah, like it does feel like a Florida movie. It looks fucking horrible, but in a hilarious way. Evil Dead Rise, we never talked about, which, I know you're a big Evil Dead guy. I don't know what you're
just a deadhead, man.
I don't know how you feel about this. I mean,
at this point, like it's been remade, already with, Fede Alvarez. Why not? Like, I'm not against it. It's one of those movies where it's like, I need to see it just to kind of like I'm for it. I'm not against it. It's just like, it's not necessarily on my radar. Like I need to see this right away. It's more like, oh, like if it's good, like that's great. It's just that there's been so many iterations of it, and like even with Ash versus the Evil Dead, it's just kind of like I think it's run its course. So if this is a way of reinventing it in a clever new way, I'm all for it.
Another Shazam movie. No one cares.
You've been Shazam.
There is stuff early in the year that I am very excited for, but I feel like you waste a slot, right? Like even Magic
Yeah.
Mike, which I'm pretty
And
psyched
Megan.
for, and yeah, Megan, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Okay, so I've gone through now that.
I think Asteroid City and Challengers is like the two that kind of like, it's like, oh yeah, those two.
We did forget about those, yeah.
Yeah.
Where I feel like I would put both of those on the list, possibly.
Or one of them. I feel like
you don't want to bump anything off that we have on there for
no,
one of
I
those?
think we have a really good list. Like I almost
Then
feel
I
like
would
we should
put
go with Challengers.
Okay, and I was gonna go with Asteroid City just because, like,
Ooh.
I know with you, it's kind of the opposite effect.
I like
right?
Wes Anderson more than Luke. I like Luca Guadagnino a lot, but I think Bones and All. I'm on that kind of like that high with Bones and All right now.
It's the
like
opposite for Anderson, right?
Yeah,
and I totally understand that, but I guess I lean more to what filmmaker I'm more like I.
Well, for doing that, then I would say Asteroid City.
That's just me personally, but like again, I think it would. I always go with the gut instinct of if someone said which one, if you could watch right now, would you watch?
What are the release dates? Do they have release dates? Because sometimes even that's telling.
Challengers is August 11th. Weird release date, and it's being released by MGM, and then Asteroid City is June 16th. So they both have interesting release dates.
Well, Wes Anderson movies usually kind of get those releases, at least the more recent stuff, in the first
and that'll be
half
post
of the
Cannes,
year.
so you got to think Asteroid City probably at Cannes, right?
Yeah, I'd say then Asteroid City. Like I'm curious about the Luca Guadagnino movie, especially because he's done, 2 horror movies back to back, and now it seems like he's going into more of
it's like a tennis movie,
comedy of errors, melodrama kind of thing. But Wes Anderson, like I liked everything I've seen of Luca Guadagnino's, but Wes Anderson's one of those guys where it's like, yeah, I'll always be down to see what he does. I just really do hope that this is good, because like if this is also a disappointment, and then we have the Roald Dahl adaptation as well, it's just like, is that too much Anderson in 1 year?
2 Andersons in 1 year might be too much. But if one's an animated movie, right? So, one is an animated movie. So I've loved his animated stuff. So I think I like his animated stuff even more than his live action. So I mean, all of his shit is basically a cartoon, but like,
but he just went full force cartoon on Fantastic Mr. Fox and Isle of Dogs.
Yeah, like I just feel like his movies are essentially, live action cartoons, and I don't mean that as an insult at all. I mean it as a compliment. But like Grand Budapest Hotel, I think is when it finally clicked with me, and I love Fantastic Mr. Fox. But it has made me want to go back and rewatch his whole filmography, which most of it's on Disney Plus because he's worked with 20th Century Fox and Searchlight,
Touchstone,
and Buena Vista Pictures early in his career. Okay, I think we got it, Eric. Are you happy with this list? I'm going to read it out.
I'm happy with this list. Yeah,
I am happy as well. Final time code 3 hours and 2 minutes. Jesus Christ.
It's a beefy one. 3 people will watch this.
I think some people will watch it in chunks or listen to it in chunks, but hey, if anyone, share it with your friends. If someone's like, hey, they go down basically every fucking movie that's coming out next year, so go listen to these clowns. All right,
we're not selfish people. We go down.
Here is Untitled's 23 most anticipated films of 2023 in no particular order. I usually do this in alphabetical, but I haven't rearranged it yet, and I'm too tired to do that right now. So
it's been 3 hours. It's all right, Matt.
Cut me some slack. So here are the 23 films. We have The Iron Claw, the Super Mario Brothers movie, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Killers of the Flower Moon, The Killer, Barbie, Beau is Afraid, The Zone of Interest, Poor Things, The Bike Riders, Saltburn, How Do You Live, Bottoms, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, I Saw the TV Glow, Love Lies Bleeding, Saw 10, Rebel Ridge, Handling the Undead, Oppenheimer, The Holdovers, and Asteroid City. It's interesting we went with Asteroid City over Wonka for that final spot. We went with actual
Legitimate
Wes Anderson over possible Anderson.
Diet Anderson.
Yeah, Diet Anderson.
Or
actually,
Anderson
Paul,
adjacent.
I shouldn't say that because Paul King, those two movies do absolutely rip with Paddington, but very much Diet Anderson outside. You could just jokingly say that. I'm happy with this list. I think it's cool. Now, what will be our predictions on? I don't want to go too early before we wrap. What is a slam dunk pick, and what is going to be that movie that you're worried about on this list that could go either way?
Well, the slam dunk is obviously Saw X.
No, Saw X could definitely be the one where we're like, yep, Matt made us put that on there, and it's a 1 out of 5. Like,
yep. You know what? I don't know. It's one of those things where, like, you can say, oh well, the next Mission Impossible movie is going to be great no matter what, but it could be the one that kind of like feels like it's running out of steam at this point. Or like you could look at a lot of the kind of auteur filmmakers that we have on there, like someone like Scorsese, where it's like, okay, well, maybe this didn't work as well as.
I'm more excited for this than you know how I felt about what's it called on Netflix? The Irishman. My brain's not working.
The old what?
The old guys. The old Irish dudes. But
the Irishman.
I am more excited for Killers of the Flower Moon, like it being kind of more of a crime drama again and a thriller.
We didn't even include Ridley Scott's movie either.
Oh, Napoleon. I don't fucking care about Napoleon. I don't.
Can we put that on a poster quote?
Any Ridley Scott movie, like it could go either way for me though. Like he's one of those guys that's like a flip a coin kind of thing where, I'll always watch his stuff and I'll be excited to see it.
But it's not necessarily going to be on a most anticipated list.
Like after Last Duel and House of Gucci, like even Alien Covenant, All the Money in the World, like I don't know, The Martian's the last thing I really loved. So, and then that's a year after Exodus, Gods and Kings, and The Counselor.
Oh God.
So like, it's like, I don't know. Like he's one of those guys that, I'm curious every time he keeps working and he's fucking pumping those movies out. And I like Joaquin Phoenix and I like Vanessa Kirby and like, but I don't, and Napoleon, I'm like, I don't fucking care. I'll go see it, but I'm not like, yeah, fucking Napoleon.
We're gonna Bonaparte this screening.
Yeah. So I don't even know how we got there. What movies might be. I'm sort of worried about Beau is Afraid. I'm very excited for it. And I think, sometimes you get 2 in a row. I'm worried about that third one. Can you do 3 in a row and the rumors that it might be 4 hours long or what the hell the movie's even about. We should get a trailer relatively soon. They put out that poster, right? But who the fuck knows? I have no idea what that movie's going to be, but it could be that one yep, that one didn't work for me. That's what I'm right now putting that away and seeing if that's how I feel about that movie. I'm still excited, and who knows? I'm talking about so early. We haven't seen anything from a movie. Just that, not a gut feeling, but one of those things of looking at the past of what I vibed with and what not. Or I could just go, that was fucking incredible. But
yeah, I also think that like it is maybe too soon, like the way that, you put that kind of auteur pressure or status on somebody that's only made a couple of movies, and while they have a vision and a style that's distinct, it's like, the an endorsement from someone like Scorsese is both a blessing and a curse, because it puts that added pressure of you always have to deliver, what you're expected to, what you've been perceived as being, and delivering that kind of movie, and always, giving that slam dunk kind of film. So with Beau is Afraid, it could just be the case of like maybe too much, or maybe he loses control of what he wanted to make, or loses sight of it, or maybe it's one of like the finest cinematic achievements, that like a truly, like, this is Ari Aster is one of the greatest filmmakers ever. I mean, ultimately we'll still have both Hereditary and Midsommar, so that doesn't change those movies, and
Oh, no,
so
and who knows?
yeah,
I'm just throwing wild speculation out there of how I'm going to feel about some of these movies, but who knows until you see them. I'm pumped, man. This was fun. We haven't done a
yes.
marathon episode like this in a long ass time. So, thank you all. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2023. We are excited about these movies. We'll be covering these 23 films for the most part, even though like there were a few last year that we didn't technically cover just because of like how things worked out, but we will talk about them at one point or another. And I'm excited to see what movie not on this list will skyrocket to our number one film of the year. Cause like, I don't know from the last couple of years if we always put our most anticipated film, like, was it our number one film? Cause what was your number one film 2 years ago? It was After Sun this year. I never remember. Who the fuck knows?
No.
But these are all interesting things. Like you mentioned Top Gun Maverick. I've mentioned RRR, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Chippendale Rescue Rangers. What other surprise will come? I probably did talk about that movie though when we did our most anticipated. But we will be back. Our first reviews of the year will be Megan. I think will be our first review of 2023.
Megan, Plane. But we also have Sundance coming up too.
Yeah.
So
thank you. Yeah, we'll be covering as much as we can at the Sundance Film Festival. That'll be an interesting one to try to schedule on our ends with my wife working from home sometimes, but we'll figure that out. Probably just do them in batches on the weekend or whatever. But it's going to be a fun year. It's year 5. I think we've been doing this half a decade at this point, this show, which is insane. Doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I know we've been doing this for a long time in various formats and various places, but for Untitled to be on its like 5th year, starting in like we're finishing our 5th year, or we're finishing the 4th year going into 5. No, I think it's finishing 5th year. It's pretty wild. Right?
2018, right, is when we started,
or was it 2017?
Yeah.
I don't know. Whatever. Again, my brain's mush. I'm excited either way.
Works in a strange way nowadays. I can't tell.
I'm pumped. Stay tuned for Plane and Megan. We're starting off with those January movies, baby. Who knows what the hell we're gonna get? Are they gonna be terrible? Most likely, but hopefully in a fun way. Or maybe they'll be genuinely good. We have no idea. I hope Megan becomes a Babylon,
yeah, I mean, it's always
or a Malignant.
It's always nice to have something early on in the year, whether it be in the first few months or, something like Everything Everywhere All at Once, like having that film that kind of gets you through, that reminds you of like, oh, there is good stuff out there. And obviously, we'll probably be talking about How to Blow Up a Pipeline again when it gets its release, which I wouldn't be surprised if it's, in the first half of the year. Because again, like it played at Toronto, so something like that is a movie that we'll definitely talk up again.
Absolutely. Go check out our other reviews. We just put up a review for Damien Chazelle's Babylon. If you're one of the 4 people who went to go see it in theaters, there's a review. It's spoiler free, so even if you didn't see it in theaters, You can check it out on this way without seeing the movie. We have a review for Avatar: The Way of Water in Dolby Cinema 3D HFR, a review of James Gunn's Guardian of the Galaxy holiday special, but we've been kind of on break for the last little while. But our last episode was our best movies of 2022, so go check that out. And we'll be, covering everything this year. I'm excited. Eric's gone. I think he just dropped out his internet or something like that. So I will wrap the show. Go check out everything at our one-stop shop, which is Untitled_movies over on Letterboxd. But you can also get us on podcast services and on YouTube. So please go subscribe over there as well. As always, my name is Matt Rohrbeck. You can find more of my work around the internet, but mostly at untitledmoviepodcast.com. And you can follow me on all those social medias at Matt Rohrbeck. If you want to catch more of Eric's work, catch him at rogerstv.com/cinemascene and follow him on all those social medias at EM6211. We'll be back next week with some reviews. I hope you guys liked this marathon episode. Peace.